Imagine going through your entire life without ever really being awake, not just from sleep, but from the habits, distractions, and lies that keep you numb. You wake up, check your phone, go through the motions, and tell yourself, but deep down, you know something is missing. You feel it, the emptiness, the disconnection, the dullness of a life lived on autopilot. This is just how life is. Tell me the truth. How many days have you lived without thinking, without truly feeling alive? How many weeks have passed where you were just surviving instead of actually living? Most people are asleep, not because they want to be, but because they don't even realize it. They've forgotten how to question, how to feel, how to be present. But here's the truth. You don't have to stay that way. You can wake up, and when you do, your entire life changes. Today, you're going to discover 12 Stoic practices that will help you wake up, not just in the morning, but in your mind. These aren't shallow hacks. They're deep tools to help you break the cycle, take back your power, and live with real purpose and presence. So get ready, because after this video, you won't just be awake, you'll be fully alive. Before we begin, I want you to make a commitment to yourself. Write in the comments, starting today, I choose to wake up. I am Stoic. This isn't just a phrase, it's a decision. A signal to your brain, your habits, and your future self that you're done sleeping through your life. So write it down and let's begin. Number 1. Master the art of self-inquiry. Ask the questions no one else dares to ask. Stop for a moment. Really stop. Have you ever asked yourself, who am I? Not your name, not your job or your role in the family, but the real you, the one behind the mask, behind the voice in your head, behind the image you show to the world. Most people never ask this question. They go through life repeating the same thoughts, the same routines, the same beliefs they picked up from childhood, school, society, and social media, never once stopping to ask, do I believe this because it's true, or because I was told to believe it? The truth is, most people are not awake. They might be busy, productive, even successful, but deep inside, they're asleep. They've never questioned the stories running their lives. They've never sat quietly with themselves and asked, why do I do what I do? Why do I want the things I chase? Why do I feel empty even when everything seems fine on the outside? Living like that is easy. It's comfortable. It's automatic. But it's not conscious. And if you want to wake up, if you want to live with real clarity, real power, and real purpose, you have to break that cycle. You have to begin the practice of self-inquiry. You have to start challenging the assumptions that shape your every move. The Stoics understood this. Socrates said, "The unexamined life is not worth living," and he meant it. He wasn't speaking metaphorically. He was saying that if you never look inward, if you never pause to examine your actions, your motives, your thoughts, then you're not truly alive. You're just existing. And existence without awareness is sleep. Look at Marcus Aurelius. He ruled over the Roman Empire, carried the weight of a nation, and faced constant war and conflict. Yet he still made time, every day, to reflect, to question, to write in his journal. He asked himself if he was living according to his principles. He reminded himself that power, fame, and luxury meant nothing if they weren't guided by truth and virtue. That's what made him more than a ruler. That's what made him awake. And if he could do it, with armies to command and enemies at the gates, then you can too. It doesn't require hours of your time, just 10 minutes a day. Sit in silence without distractions. No phone, no music, no background noise. Just you and your thoughts. Ask yourself the hard questions. Am I being honest with myself? Am I chasing what matters? Am I living by my values or someone else's? Am I reacting out of fear, habit, or insecurity? You won't always like the answers, but that's the point. Growth doesn't come from comfort, it comes from truth. And truth, when seen clearly, wakes you up. The more honest you are with yourself, the less you can lie to others. The more aware you become of your own patterns, the easier it is to change them. You don't need to fix everything at once. You just need to start seeing clearly. Self-inquiry is like a mirror. It shows you who you are now, but it also reflects who you could become. This is how you stop sleepwalking through life. This is how you break the spell of routine, noise, and distraction. You turn inward. You pay attention. You ask and ask again until you begin to see through the fog. This is what it means to wake up. This is what it means to live with intention. So don't wait for some perfect moment. Don't wait until life forces you to change. Choose to wake up now. Choose to live with awareness now. Start by writing down the thoughts that come up when you're alone. Start noticing your habits and questioning them. Start listening more to your inner voice than the noise of the world. Because when you practice self-inquiry, you're not just thinking, you're remembering who you really are. And once you remember that, you can't go back to sleep. Write this in the comments. Starting today, I will question everything. I will live with awareness. I am Stoic. Because you're not just writing words, you're setting a standard. You're making a promise to yourself, and that promise might just be the thing that saves your life. Number 2, reclaim the power of your attention. What you focus on is what you become. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you went an entire hour, just 1 hour, without checking your phone, switching between apps, clicking random tabs, or reacting to notifications? Think about it. Really think. Because if you can't remember, you're not alone. You're just like most people, living in a world where attention is no longer given, it's taken. Where every sound, screen, and scroll is designed to pull you away from yourself, from your thoughts, from your purpose, from your life. But here's the truth. Your attention is your most valuable possession, not your money, not your reputation, not even your time. Because time can pass whether you're aware or not. But attention, that's the part of you that chooses. It's the part of you that lives. And right now, it's being stolen. Every time you reach for your phone out of habit, every time you check notifications without thinking, every time you let your mind jump from one thing to the next without control, you are giving pieces of yourself away. Tiny, invisible cuts to your mental strength. And slowly, without even realizing it, your ability to be present, to think deeply, to feel clearly, to act deliberately, starts to die. The Stoics warned us about this. Seneca said, "People are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, they are most wasteful." But in today's world, it's no longer just time we're wasting, it's attention, because time without attention is just emptiness. Hours can pass, and you won't even remember what you did with them. So how do you fix this? You reclaim it. You take your attention back, and you treat it like a sacred currency, because that's exactly what it is. The first step is to become aware of where your attention goes. Notice it, track it. Sit down for a few minutes and ask yourself, what has been stealing my attention? Where does my mind go when I'm not watching? Who profits when I lose focus? You might be surprised at the answers. Because attention is not just stolen by obvious things like social media or entertainment. It's also hijacked by fear, by anxiety, by drama, by the constant need to be in the loop. It's taken by people who drain your energy, by thoughts that don't serve you, by worries you can't control. And the longer your attention is scattered, the weaker your inner self becomes. But once you start to notice it, you can change it. You can start training your attention the same way you train your body. You can build focus like a muscle. Begin small. Choose one task and give it your full attention. No multitasking, no switching, just presence. Eat your food without checking your phone. Walk without music in your ears. Listen to someone speak without thinking about what you'll say next. Just be there. It sounds simple, but it's rare, and that's what makes it powerful. Marcus Aurelius, in his meditations, constantly reminded himself to return to the present moment. He would say things like, "Nowhere you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions than your own soul." But how can your soul be peaceful if you never sit with it? If your attention is always outside, pulled in every direction, how can you ever return to your center? Here's the truth most people never realize. The quality of your life depends on the quality of your attention. Whatever you give energy to grows. Whatever you ignore fades. So ask yourself, what am I feeding with my attention today? Is it chaos or clarity, distraction or discipline? Because you get to choose. And once you begin to choose consciously, everything starts to shift. You stop reacting, you stop chasing, you stop drowning in the noise, and you begin to live with intention. So from now on, guard your attention like a warrior. Build boundaries around it. Create rituals to strengthen it. And when you feel it drifting, gently bring it back, again and again. That's the practice. Number 3, uninstall the cultural operating system. Question what the world installed in you. From the moment you were born, the world started programming you, not with wires and machines, but with ideas, expectations, labels, rules. Little by little, you were handed a script, how to act, what to believe, what to want, and even what to fear. And like most people, you followed it. Not because you're weak, but because you didn't know you had a choice. But let's be clear, what most people call normal is just the default setting. It's a cultural operating system, running quietly in the background of your life, guiding your decisions without you even realizing it. You were told what success looks like. Get good grades, get a job, get married, buy a house, retire someday. You were told what happiness is supposed to be. Comfort, status, possessions, likes. You were told what to value, external achievement, applause, approval. But who wrote those rules? Who decided those goals were the ones you should chase? You didn't. They were installed before you were old enough to say no. And now, without even realizing it, you're living someone else's idea of a life. That's not your fault. But staying asleep? That's your choice. The Stoics believed in freedom, but not the kind most people chase. Not freedom from work, not freedom from responsibility. They believed in freedom from illusion, freedom from false beliefs, freedom from unconscious control. And that kind of freedom only comes when you stop and question everything you've been taught to accept. Marcus Aurelius didn't rule the Roman Empire by following the crowd. He questioned the expectations placed on him. He stripped away status and titles in his mind. He reminded himself that he was just a man, breathing, thinking, preparing for death like everyone else. That kind of clarity only comes when you uninstall the lies the world teaches. So how do you do it? You start by pausing. You start by observing. Not just the world, but your own beliefs. Ask yourself, where did this belief come from? Is this goal even mine? Am I chasing this because it matters to me, or because I was told it should? What if I let this go? Who would I be without it? It's not easy. In fact, it's uncomfortable. You might start to see that parts of your life are built on foundations that don't belong to you. You might feel lost for a while. That's okay. Being lost is the beginning of being free. When you uninstall the cultural operating system, you create space. Space to choose again. Space to build your own values, your own philosophy, your own definition of meaning, success, and happiness. But it has to be conscious, because if you don't define these things for yourself, someone else will, and they'll profit from your confusion. They'll sell you products to fix a problem you don't actually have. They'll keep you chasing dreams that leave you feeling empty. They'll distract you from asking the questions that would wake you up. And you'll just keep running the program. But you're not here for that. You're here to wake up. You're here to live by a different code, one that comes from within, not from ads, trends, or outdated beliefs. So start the work. Begin identifying what was given to you without your consent. It could be a belief about money, about what it means to be a man or a woman, about religion, about success, about your worth, about what you should do with your life. Hold each belief up to the light and ask, is this true for me, or just familiar? Then, piece by piece, uninstall it. This process isn't loud. It's quiet. It's not flashy. It's internal, but it's powerful, because every belief you let go of that doesn't belong to you frees you to become more of who you truly are. Number 4, practice existential honesty. Face the truths most people run from. Let's stop pretending. Life isn't as safe, predictable, or permanent as people make it out to be. You're going to die. Everyone you love is going to die. Nothing is promised, and you have no control over how or when the end will come. That's not meant to scare you. It's meant to wake you up. But most people don't want to be awake. They want to be comfortable. They want certainty. So instead of facing the truth, they drown it in noise. They scroll through social media, binge-watch shows, chase pleasures, argue about things that don't matter, just to avoid sitting still long enough to feel the weight of reality pressing in. But here's the thing. Avoidance is sleep, and sleep is the opposite of awareness. If you want to wake up, if you want to live like a Stoic, you have to stop running. You have to sit with the things that scare you. You have to practice something very few people ever do. Existential honesty. That means facing the truth about what it means to be human. That means looking at the mirror and admitting that this life, this body, this moment, none of it lasts forever. You could leave life today, tomorrow, next week. The people around you could be gone in an instant, and nothing, no money, no status, no amount of control, can stop that. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself of death daily. He didn't do it to feel depressed. He did it to feel alive. Because when you face the end, you start to see what really matters. All the little worries lose their power. All the shallow distractions fall away. And what's left is presence, clarity, purpose. But you can't fake this work. You can't just say the words and expect transformation. You have to sit in the discomfort. You have to feel the weight of it. You have to allow the silence to reveal what noise has always hidden. That takes courage. Not the loud kind, the quiet kind, the kind that faces the mirror and doesn't flinch. You don't need to find answers to every question. But you do need to stop avoiding them. You need to walk through your day with your eyes open, not closed. When you feel that creeping sense of fear or emptiness, don't cover it up, follow it. Ask what it's trying to teach you. Ask what it reveals about your values, your choices, your time. The people who live most fully are the ones who've made peace with the truths that most people fear. They don't need to lie to themselves to get through the day. They don't need endless distractions to feel okay. They've looked death in the face. They've looked uncertainty in the face. They've looked meaninglessness in the face. And instead of breaking, they built themselves on top of it. You can do the same. And you must, because without this honesty, your life will be shallow, fragile, reactive. You'll live chasing comfort instead of truth, noise instead of peace. But once you face the real things, once you stop pretending, you'll begin to feel grounded, still, free. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, and yet he carved out time to reflect on death, on impermanence, on the nature of suffering. If he could do that with armies to lead and wars to fight, what's your excuse? Sit in the silence. Feel the truth. Don't run. Let the weight of life shape you, not crush you. You don't need more comfort. You need more clarity. You need the kind of stillness that comes from being done with denial. That's what it means to be stoic. Number 5. Develop still awareness. Learn to observe without reacting. Most people confuse awareness with thought. They think that being aware means thinking harder, thinking more, analyzing every detail, over-explaining every moment. But that's not awareness. That's noise. That's the mind doing what it was trained to do. Interpret, compare, judge, narrate. Still awareness is different. Still awareness is the quiet observer behind all that thinking. It's not what you say to yourself. It's what sees the voice in your head speaking. It's not the emotion you feel. It's the silent part of you that notices it arise. That's the space you need to train. Because until you find that space, you are a prisoner of your own mind. You wake up in the morning and thoughts already start firing. What do I need to do today? What if I fail? Why didn't I sleep better? What does that person think of me? Before you even step out of bed, your mind has taken over, and you assume that's normal. You assume that's you. But it's not. It's just the mind doing what it's always done. The Stoics knew how dangerous this could be. They understood that reacting to every thought or emotion without discipline leads to suffering. Marcus Aurelius wrote constantly about standing outside of yourself, watching your impressions, judging them slowly, refusing to be carried away by the first impulse. This wasn't just poetic wisdom, it was psychological training. And it's just as relevant now as it was then. Still awareness is that moment between the trigger and your response. It's the pause, it's the breath. It's the ability to sit in silence and not immediately fill the gap with something, words, movement, distraction. It's what allows you to look at your anger without becoming it, to feel fear rise and not obey it, to experience anxiety without building a story around it. But still, awareness doesn't come naturally. You have to train it, not once. Every day. You sit in silence, you let the thoughts come, and you watch them. You don't fight them, you don't chase them, you don't analyze them. You simply notice and return to your breath, your body, the present moment. At first, it will feel boring, useless even. Your mind will scream for stimulation, will beg for distraction. But if you stay long enough, if you keep watching without reacting, you begin to feel something shift. You begin to realize that you are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are not even your story. You are the one who sees it all. And in that seeing, you begin to find peace. Peace doesn't come from controlling everything. It comes from not needing to. It comes from learning to sit in stillness and allow life to move through you without shaking your core. That's strength. That's resilience. That's presence. The world today is designed to pull you away from that stillness. Every app, every headline, every advertisement is trying to break your attention, keep you in reaction mode. If you don't guard your awareness, it will be stolen. If you don't train it, it will atrophy. And if you don't learn to sit in silence, you will always be at the mercy of noise. Still, awareness is not about escaping life. It's about engaging with it more deeply. When you stop labeling everything, you start seeing what's really there. When you stop rushing to respond, you start hearing what's actually being said. When you stop analyzing every feeling, you start to feel what's true underneath. This practice is simple, but not easy. That's why most people skip it. They'd rather be stimulated than still. But that's also why most people are distracted, anxious, and lost in their heads. You can choose something different. You can choose stillness. You can choose presence. Not once, but over and over again. Because the quality of your life will never rise above the quality of your awareness. And awareness begins in stillness. Number 6. Do one thing uncomfortably conscious each day. Break the cycle of automatic living. The truth is, most of what you do each day, you're not really aware of. You wake up and reach for your phone before your eyes are fully open. You eat while scrolling. You walk while texting. You shower while arguing in your head. You speak on autopilot. You react to things without thinking. And you call that living. But it's not. It's looping. It's repeating. It's existing inside a mental program that's been running for so long, you've forgotten there's a way to turn it off. That's what unconscious living looks like. And the worst part is that it feels normal. It feels safe. But it's not safe. Because when you go long enough without awareness, you start to forget that you have the power to choose. The Stoics believed that awareness is the foundation of a good life, not intelligence, not education, not even morality. Awareness. Because without it, you are simply reacting to the world, not responding to it. And the difference between the two is everything. That's why one of the most powerful practices you can adopt is this. Each day, do one thing in a completely conscious way. Not 20, not 5, just one. But do it slowly. Do it deliberately. Do it without distraction. And do it even if it feels uncomfortable. Eat a meal in silence, with no phone, no music, no stimulation, just your senses and your presence. Walk without your headphones, noticing each step, each sound, each breath. Have a conversation where you don't rush to speak, where you listen fully, where you're aware of the tone of your voice and the space between your words. Or even more difficult, breathe deeply and consciously when someone triggers you. Stay with the sensation instead of reacting. At first, this will feel strange, maybe even annoying. You'll feel an itch to check your phone, to fill the quiet, to speed it up. That's the discomfort of awareness rising. It's the part of you that's used to running finally being forced to stand still. And that's exactly where the growth begins. Every time you do something slowly, consciously, with full presence, you weaken the grip of habit. You disrupt the pattern that says, "This is just how I am." Because you're showing yourself, even if for a moment, that you are not a machine. You are not your routine. You are not your impulses. You are something deeper, something that can choose how to act instead of being pulled by instinct. This practice might seem small, but it's not. It's everything. Because if you can be present while washing your hands, you can be present while making a hard decision. If you can be conscious while breathing through discomfort, you can be conscious in the middle of a difficult conversation. Presence is a skill, and like any skill, it must be practiced. The Stoics didn't separate philosophy from daily life. Their principles showed up in the way they walked, the way they spoke, the way they responded to challenges. They trained their awareness not just in study, but in action. You can do the same, and it starts with small, conscious moments repeated over time. So choose your moment, just one thing. It doesn't have to be dramatic. In fact, it shouldn't be. The more ordinary, the better. Because the goal isn't to escape daily life, it's to transform it from within. To reclaim your moments from the grip of habit. To remember that life is happening now. Not after you've finished the to-do list, not when things get easier, not when you finally slow down. Now. And now is the only place awareness can live. Number 7. Track your personal delusions. Confront the lies you tell yourself. It's easy to spot the lies in others, the exaggerations, the hypocrisy, the blind spots. But much harder is the moment you turn that gaze inward and ask, what am I lying to myself about? Most people don't ask that. Most people don't want to know, because deep down they sense that the stories they tell themselves are keeping them comfortable. And comfort for many is more important than truth. But if you want to wake up, if you want to live with clarity, strength and freedom, you can't afford to protect your illusions. You have to shine a light on them. You have to track them, expose them, and let them fall apart. Because every delusion you cling to is a wall between you and your potential. Everyone carries personal illusions. The belief that we're always the victim. That we're not responsible for how we feel. That we're better than we are, or worse than we are. That our intentions are pure, even when our actions are selfish. That the problem is always out there. These are the stories that let us avoid growth. They cushion the ego, but they stunt the soul. The Stoics were relentless in their pursuit of truth, not just in the world, but in themselves. Epictetus said, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." If you believe your version of events is always accurate, your self-image always justified, your pain always someone else's fault, then you'll never change. You'll stay stuck, blind to your own hand in your suffering. That's why you need a practice, not just a vague intention to be more honest with yourself, but a daily ritual, a deliberate way to catch your own illusions before they grow stronger. Call it a delusion tracker, a notebook, a voice memo, a mental journal. Somewhere you can record the patterns you notice, the excuses you catch, the moments when you feel that subtle shift, that pause between what's real and what you want to believe. You don't have to do it perfectly. Just start noticing. The times you justify anger because it feels easier than admitting hurt. The moments you tell yourself you don't care, when really you care too much. The ways you avoid responsibility by hiding behind blame or sarcasm or distraction. These aren't just bad habits, they're blind spots. And each one holds the potential to reveal something deeper, if you're willing to look. At first, it will sting, like peeling off a layer of skin. Because these illusions didn't appear overnight. They were built over years. Some were inherited. Some were survival mechanisms. Some are rooted so deep in your identity you'll feel lost without them. But this discomfort is not punishment, it's purification. Because every time you strip away a lie, you become lighter, clearer, stronger, more grounded in reality, which is the only place real power lives. Marcus Aurelius wasn't afraid to call himself out. His journals are filled with reminders to stay humble, to stay disciplined, to resist ego, to return again and again to what is true. That's not weakness, that's strength. The kind of strength that doesn't need to perform or prove, it just is. Tracking your delusions is not self-hatred, it's self-respect. It's saying, I care enough about my life not to live in denial. I value truth more than image. I want to grow more than I want to feel good in the short term. And the more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. You'll start catching yourself in the moment. You'll begin to see through your own performances. You'll feel when something inside you isn't honest, and instead of pushing it down, you'll pause and face it. This is the path of the Stoic, not the clean path, not the perfect one, but the real one, built on honesty, sharpened by humility, rooted in the courage to see clearly. Number 8. Disengage from the identity feedback loop. Stop performing and start being. You may not notice it, but most of your identity isn't something you created. It's something that was shaped, reflected, and reinforced by others. From an early age, you learned what got praise, what got attention, what earned you love or approval. And little by little, you began to adjust. You smiled when expected. You acted tougher, softer, louder, quieter, depending on what the moment demanded. You learned to perform, and that performance slowly hardened into identity. We live in a world that thrives on performance. Likes, followers, titles, accolades, tiny forms of social currency that feed back into your sense of self. You start to think you are your job. You are your image. You are the version of yourself that people respond to. And soon, you're not living, you're curating. You narrate your life as if someone's watching, as if every move needs to be explained, justified, shared. You choose actions not because they're true to you, but because they fit the character you've created. You become the product of a feedback loop. Perform, receive validation, repeat. But here's the danger. Over time, you forget who you were before the performance began. You forget how to be without needing a response. And you begin to rely on the reflection to feel real. The Stoics warned us about this. Epictetus reminded us that roles come and go. That status is nothing. That identity should not be based on external things that can be taken away. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that he was just a man, no more important than the people he ruled, no less mortal than the ones who served him. They knew the moment your self-worth becomes dependent on the approval of others, you've already lost control of your life. Disengaging from this loop doesn't mean becoming cold or isolated. It means remembering who you are when no one's looking. It means doing things because they are right, not because they'll be seen. It means being okay with silence, with anonymity, with being misunderstood. To begin this work, notice the subtle ways you shift who you are depending on the audience. Watch how quickly you reach for your phone to share a moment instead of living it. Observe how often you think about how something looks before asking if it's true. These aren't signs of weakness, they're signs of conditioning. But the beautiful thing about conditioning is that it can be undone, deliberately, patiently, quietly. Spend time away from the spotlight. Do things that no one will ever know about. Take walks without documenting them. Help someone without telling a soul. Make choices that reflect your values, even if no one notices or agrees. Sit in the space where you are not being seen and ask, who am I now? It may feel strange at first. The silence might feel like emptiness, but stay with it, because beneath the silence, you'll start to hear something honest, something unfiltered. You'll begin to reconnect with a deeper version of yourself, the one that doesn't need to prove anything, doesn't need applause, doesn't need to be branded, posted, or approved. Just is. That's the self the Stoics sought to strengthen, not the ego built by reaction, but the soul formed by reflection, not the persona crafted for the crowd, but the core that remains when the crowd disappears. When you let go of the need to be seen, you start to see. When you stop performing, you start participating. You begin to experience life directly, not as something to control or impress, but as something to feel fully, deeply, honestly. That's not detachment. That's freedom. Number 9. Enter silence retreats or solitude zones. Let the noise settle so truth can rise. The modern world is built on stimulation. Screens glow from morning to night. Notifications buzz without pause. Conversations, headlines, entertainment. It never stops. Everywhere you turn, something is asking for your attention. And without realizing it, you begin to live in reaction mode. You forget how to sit still. You forget how to be alone. And slowly you forget who you are without all the noise. Very few people today know themselves in silence. Fewer still have ever experienced what it feels like to be completely disconnected from the constant input of others. That's why solitude feels strange at first, why silence can even feel threatening, because when all the distractions are stripped away, what's left is the raw you, and that's where the real work begins. The Stoics embraced solitude, not as isolation, but as clarity. They knew that retreating from the world, even briefly, allowed them to return with deeper wisdom. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, would write to himself in stolen moments of quiet, reflecting on the nature of his thoughts, his duties, his mortality. He ruled an empire, yet he made space for silence. He understood that the busier life becomes, the more essential it is to pause. Silence is not the absence of life, it is the presence of awareness. It's where the sediment of the mind begins to settle. When the surface stops being disturbed, the water clears, and only then do you see what lies beneath. Solitude gives you access to thoughts and truths that cannot surface in noise, not because they're hiding, but because they're buried, under stimulation, under performance, under the urgency of constant motion. When you finally step back, when you take even a short retreat from devices, voices, and screens, you start to notice what has been with you all along. Restlessness, grief, insight, gratitude. Questions you've been too busy to ask. Answers you've been too distracted to hear. You don't need to disappear for a month to feel this. You need space. You need intentional distance from the stream of consumption that never ends unless you step out of it. Find a day, a few hours, a morning walk where no one can reach you, a quiet room with no input, no phone, no music, just breath, just observation, just stillness. In those moments, you may feel discomfort rise, the urge to reach for stimulation, the fear of boredom, the resistance to sitting with yourself. But that resistance is the door. Go through it. On the other side is a deeper knowing, a calm that doesn't come from escaping the world, but from no longer needing it to define you. Solitude is not about disconnection from life. It's about reconnecting with your essence. In silence, you remember that you are more than your schedule, more than your roles, more than what the world asks of you. You return to what is simple, clear, honest. The Stoics weren't afraid to be alone because they had trained themselves to see solitude as a kind of sharpening. When you are alone, you can no longer hide behind distractions. Your character, your thoughts, your patterns, they reveal themselves. And that visibility, uncomfortable as it may be, is where transformation begins. Go to nature. Go to a quiet room. Go to any place where the world cannot reach you. And then listen. Not for noise, not for new information, but for the silence itself. Let it teach you. Let it test you. Let it show you who you are when there's no one to impress, no one to please, no one to perform for. Because in those spaces, something real begins to emerge. Not louder, but clearer. Not newer, but truer. That is the gift of silence. Not emptiness, not escape, but presence. And that presence is where you begin to live awake. Number 10. Befriend death as a motivational companion. Let the end shape how you live. Most people are afraid to think about death. They treat it like a distant event, a shadow too dark to look at directly. They push it away, hide it behind busy schedules, behind small talk, behind dreams of tomorrow. They pretend they have time, even when every clock in the world is reminding them otherwise. But the truth is, death is not far away. It is not reserved for the old or the sick. It is not a problem to solve or a thing to escape. It is part of you. It walks with you every day, quietly, patiently, without urgency. The Stoics knew this. That's why they didn't fear death. They welcomed it, not as a friend, but as a companion, a teacher. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." Not as a threat, as focus, as clarity, because nothing cuts through noise and distraction like the realization that none of this lasts, that nothing you see, touch, or chase will be yours forever, that your time here is borrowed and the return date is unknown. When you begin to face death, really face it, not with panic, but with presence, you begin to live differently. You start to see how much of life is wasted on pettiness, on worrying about what others think, on chasing things that will mean nothing in the end. You stop postponing the important conversations. You stop putting off the decisions that matter. You stop assuming that someday you'll get to the life you want. Someday is not guaranteed. And when you live with that truth, not in fear, but in full awareness, your priorities sharpen. You feel urgency, not in a frantic way, but in a grounded way. You stop playing roles you've outgrown. You speak more directly. You forgive faster. You love harder. You stop living like you're rehearsing for a future that might never arrive. To the Stoics, death was not a darkness to avoid. It was a mirror. It showed them what mattered. It reminded them to act now, to live now, to be just now, not later, not eventually, but here, in this breath, this hour, this day, because that might be all you have. You don't need to obsess over death. You don't need to be morbid. But you do need to remember. You do need to stop pretending. Every day, take a moment, even if it's 10 seconds. Breathe in the awareness that this life is fragile, that every person you meet is carrying the same ticking clock, that no amount of achievement or avoidance will change what we all face. This isn't weakness. This is strength. Because once you've made peace with the end, you're free to begin. You can take risks without needing guarantees. You can say what needs to be said without waiting for the perfect moment. You can live without apology, knowing that what matters is not how long you live, but how honestly you do. People who have accepted death often live the most vividly. They stop chasing immortality through attention or legacy. They become fully awake to the moment in front of them. They feel the air differently. They see others more clearly. They don't waste time. That clarity is available to you too. Not later, now. Death is not the enemy. Fear is. Delay is. Forgetfulness is. But death is the reminder to be alive. Number 11. Experience reality through the body, not the mind. Return to what is real. We live in our heads. Most of the time, that's where we are. Not in the room, not in the conversation, not in the breath, but spinning somewhere in thought, planning, judging, rehearsing, reliving. The mind builds its own world, and we get trapped in it. Trapped in a loop of ideas, anxieties, self-talk, inner arguments, endless narratives. And slowly, we lose contact with what's right in front of us. The Stoics taught clarity of thought, yes, but not disconnection. They knew that wisdom was not just in ideas, but in being grounded in reality. And reality doesn't happen in the abstract. It happens here, now, in the body, in sensation, in breath, in presence. Cognitive living, when it becomes constant, is not a strength. It becomes a form of escape, an avoidance of the body, a dissociation from what it means to be fully alive. And no amount of intellectual mastery can replace the experience of being fully present, fully engaged, fully embodied. To return to presence, you have to return to the body, because the body doesn't lie. The body doesn't live in the future or the past. The body doesn't care about your opinions, your justifications, your stories. It breathes, it moves, it senses, it knows. This is why somatic practices are essential, not just for health, but for awakening. Breathwork, cold exposure, fasting, silence, walking barefoot, lifting something heavy, sitting still, moving freely. These are not just wellness trends, they are ancient ways of regrounding in truth. They shock the system out of the mental fog. They strip away the filters. They remind you you are here. When the mind spirals, the body brings you back. When fear builds, the breath brings you back. When overthinking clouds your clarity, sensation cuts through the noise. The Stoics didn't have a word for embodiment, but they lived it. They walked long distances. They practiced moderation in food and pleasure. They trained in hardship. They endured discomfort not for the sake of pain, but for the clarity that came from it. Modern life, by contrast, is built to keep you numb, to remove you from the body. Chairs that dull sensation, screens that override presence, food that comforts but disconnects. We've created a world where it's possible to go through an entire day without once feeling fully alive. But you can change that. You can return to what's real, not with force, with awareness. Feel the breath in your lungs. Feel the cold on your skin. Fast, and feel the quiet of hunger. Walk in nature without needing to record it. Move your body not to burn calories, but to remember your own strength. Let yourself sweat. Let yourself shiver. Let yourself slow down. This is not about pushing the body to extremes. It's about listening to it again. About making space for it to speak. Because the body holds truths the mind forgets. It remembers what the mind resists. It carries trauma the mind hides. And it offers grounding when the mind tries to escape. To be fully awake, you can't live only in your thoughts. You have to descend, back into the body, back into sensation, back into the moment. Only there can presence take root. The Stoics weren't abstract philosophers removed from life. They were warriors, rulers, citizens, teachers. They understood that wisdom is lived through the body, not just reasoned in theory. Every step, every breath, every choice mattered, because those were the places where philosophy became real. So, return to the body, and through it, return to life. Number 12. Align microchoices with your deepest truth. Wakefulness lives in the small things. People often search for transformation in big moments. The breakthrough, the turning point, the dramatic decision that changes everything. But that's not where awakening happens, not really. Awakening happens in the quiet, ordinary places, in the choices so small they're easy to overlook. What you say when you're irritated, how you treat the barista, the food you put in your body, the way you speak to yourself when no one's listening. These micro-choices shape your life more than the bold declarations ever will, because they are the raw, unfiltered evidence of who you truly are, not who you say you are, not who you hope to be, but who you are in action. Most people live with a split inside them. They speak one way, but act another. They hold values in theory, but abandon them when tested. They think integrity is about grand gestures, but ignore the daily moments when their behavior quietly contradicts what they claim to believe. The Stoics had no patience for this kind of disconnection. To them, philosophy wasn't something you studied. It was something you practiced. Every decision, no matter how small, was a test of character. How you walk, how you listen, how you carry yourself in ordinary life. That was where philosophy was proven or exposed. To live awake means to shrink the gap between your stated values and your lived behavior. It means to remember that every time you choose kindness when it's inconvenient, discipline when it's tiring, honesty when it's uncomfortable, you are aligning with your deepest truth. This isn't about perfection. It's about consistency. It's about making your external life a reflection of your internal clarity. And it's done quietly, moment by moment, with no audience, no applause. The world may never notice, but you will. And over time, your soul will grow quieter, steadier, more whole, because there's no longer a war between what you know and what you do. These moments are not exciting. They won't go viral, but they are sacred. Because each time you act in alignment with truth, you affirm who you are. You reinforce the foundation. You take the abstract and make it real. The way you eat your meals, the way you hold a door open, the way you speak about someone who isn't in the room. These are the choices that build your character, layer by layer. And when pressure comes, when life shakes you, you won't need to fake strength. You'll already be standing on something solid, your own practice. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, but he spent his private mornings reminding himself to return to the basics, to stay kind, to control his tongue, to stay alert to vanity and ego. He understood that greatness is built not in flashes of power, but in steady alignment with principle. The way you do anything is the way you do everything. So, pay attention. Start to see your smallest decisions as spiritual practice. Choose as if the world depends on it. Not because it does, but because you do. Because the difference between someone who is awake and someone who is asleep is not how loudly they speak their truth, but how quietly and consistently they live it. Most people go through life half awake, drifting through routines, trapped in noise, asleep to their choices. But not you, not anymore. You've just walked through 12 Stoic practices that don't ask for perfection or performance. They ask for presence. They ask you to wake up, not once, but every single day, to question yourself, to sit with silence, to feel discomfort, to breathe through fear, to step out of the role the world handed you and live from the truth you were born with. This is the real work, not glamorous, not easy, but deeply alive. Now ask yourself, which one of these practices struck you the hardest? Which one exposed something you've been avoiding? That's the one you start with. That's where your awakening begins. So let's make it real. Drop a comment and share the practice that woke you up the most. You're not just writing words, you're anchoring your intention. And if this journey stirred something in you, something that says, yes, this is the path, then don't let it end here. Subscribe to the channel so you never fall back asleep. Because this isn't the end. It's the alarm clock. Now it's up to you. Snooze or rise. Let's be honest. Your life is filled with things that no longer serve you. These things not only hinder your growth, but also drain your energy. But have you ever stopped to ask yourself why you continue to carry them? Sometimes, the most powerful act of rebellion isn't making a scene, but silently letting go of everything that weighs you down, whether it's toxic relationships or self-destructive habits. And no, you don't need to make a spectacle of it or wait for anyone's approval. In today's video, I'll guide you on how to adopt the principles of Stoic philosophy and apply them to eliminate what you can't control, freeing yourself from burdens that only hold you back. Life is too short to remain trapped by the expectations of others. I'll show you, step by step, how to let go of 10 things that are making your life chaotic, not only physically, but mentally as well. These things are destroying you faster than you realize, and once you eliminate them, you will feel a weight lifted from your soul. It'll leave you speechless. So, start today in silence, without any excuses. Ultimately, what you choose to leave behind will say more about who you are than anything you try to hold on to. Are you ready to truly start living? But before we dive in, let me share a story that will help you understand the wisdom behind this concept. In a remote village by the sea, there lived a young fisherman named Eleanor. She was renowned for her skill in navigating the most treacherous waters and her ability to catch fish even on the most difficult days. However, over the years, Eleanor had accumulated a large collection of broken nets and tools that she no longer used but kept out of sheer habit. Despite this, every time she set out to sea, her small boat was cluttered with objects that hindered her work. One day, as she was preparing for a long day on the ocean, a powerful storm hit. The waves battered her boat, and Eleanor realized that the excess of items she carried was making it difficult for her to maneuver. She fought the storm for hours, but felt that the real enemy wasn't just the waves, it was the unnecessary burden she had been carrying. In a moment of clarity, Eleanor made the difficult yet necessary decision to throw overboard what was no longer useful. She started with the broken nets, then discarded the old frayed ropes, and even let go of some personal items she had kept out of attachment, though they served her no purpose. With every item she cast into the sea, her boat became lighter, and she was able to navigate the storm more effectively. The waves continued to rage, but Eleanor no longer felt trapped by the weight of her past. Eventually, the storm subsided, and she was able to return to the harbor, exhausted but safe. Her fellow fishermen, amazed by her survival, asked how she managed to make it through the storm. With a calm smile, Eleanor replied, "There are times in life when we cling to things we don't need, objects, memories, or people, that only add weight to our journey. Only when we decide to let go of the unnecessary in silence, without drama, do we find the freedom to move forward with ease. The moral of this story is clear. There are many things in life that we must silently eliminate in order to continue. Often, the load we carry prevents us from navigating with ease. Only by letting go can we discover our true path. Before we dive into the first lesson, I encourage you to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss out on future videos. Let's begin. Fear of what others think. Have you ever realized how many decisions you've made simply out of fear of what others might think? That fear is like a silent presence that clings to you, preventing you from being your authentic self. It's as if you're living on a stage, constantly under the scrutiny of an audience that, in reality, is far too preoccupied with their own insecurities to pay attention to you. But still, you find yourself paralyzed by the fear of judgment. This fear is one of those quiet parasites that attach themselves to your dreams, feeding on your hopes and whispering in your ear whenever you contemplate doing something different or daring. What will they think? It asks, and suddenly you shift your course, adapting your life to what you believe others want from you. It's ironic that we spend so much time worrying about the opinions of others, to the point that we stop living the life we truly desire. This fear pushes us to please people we don't even have close relationships with, as if our internal compass were malfunctioning. Instead of following the true direction of our hearts, we blindly follow society's expectations. We wear masks that fit the roles we think we're supposed to play at work, with friends, or even on social media. But where is the real you beneath all those layers of false smiles and borrowed opinions? The fear of judgment can be subtle, often disguised as prudence. It's not the right time, or maybe I'm not good enough. These excuses are just the same fear wearing a mask. Meanwhile, your dreams gather dust, waiting for a better time that never seems to come. To finally rid yourself of this fear, you need to embrace Stoic philosophy. The Stoics teach us that while we cannot control what others think of us, we can control how we react to their thoughts. This sounds simple, but it's not. It requires constant introspection and courage to learn how to live for yourself, to make decisions because they bring you joy, not because they meet someone else's expectations. Life is too short to live under the shadow of other people's opinions. A good starting point is to begin eliminating the things in your life that don't add value, those things you're keeping only to please others. Start with small decisions. Say no to things that don't bring you fulfillment. Do something you've always wanted to do, but were too afraid to because of what others might think. These small actions will gradually free you. I won't lie to you. It's not easy. There will be days when the weight of other people's judgment feels overwhelming. But on those days, remind yourself that every time you choose to live for the approval of others, you lose a piece of who you truly are. It's a slow, silent death of your true self that you can avoid if you have the courage to be authentic. So, begin eliminating those things quietly. There's no need for grand announcements. Just let go of what doesn't belong to you, trust your own judgment, and value what you think of yourself more than what others may think. At the end of the day, the only person you need to answer to is you. As Carl Jung said, freedom begins the moment you stop worrying about what others think of you. Toxic relationships. There's a phrase I love. The worst blind person is the one who refuses to see. I'm sure you've heard it, and it's especially true when we apply selective blindness to our relationships. We get used to dealing with people who, in some way, subtract from our well-being rather than adding to it. Yes, I'm talking about toxic relationships. These relationships slowly drain your energy, often without you even realizing it. And the worst part is, Sometimes you cling to them as though they are irreplaceable. I'm not just referring to romantic relationships. These toxic dynamics can exist anywhere, with family, friends, or even colleagues. The strange thing is that no one forces you to maintain these relationships, yet you tolerate them in silence as if cutting ties would be a betrayal. We've been taught that severing connections is a sign of weakness, a form of cruelty, when in fact, it may be the greatest act of self-love you can perform. Let's get philosophical for a moment. The Stoics emphasized that we should not worry about what we cannot control, and that includes the actions of others. You can't control how others behave, but you can control whether or not you continue to keep them in your life. The real challenge is in doing it quietly. And don't misunderstand me. It's not about silent revenge or pretending to be superior. It's simply the conscious decision to stop nurturing a relationship that depletes you, doing so without fanfare. Think about it. There's no need for drama to eliminate something that no longer serves you. You don't need to announce to the world that you're purging people from your life. It's much like when you stop watering a plant that has stopped blooming. You do so calmly, knowing that it's no longer a part of your garden. The plant will continue its path, and so will you, and that's perfectly fine. It's not that these people are inherently bad, but their energy clashes with yours. And that's the key. Being aware of how you feel after spending time with them. Pay attention to your body, your emotions. If you notice that every interaction with someone feels like an emotional marathon, you might be involved in a toxic relationship. As painful as it may be to admit, once you recognize it, you can start the process of gently distancing yourself. Gradually reduce your interactions, stop initiating contact, and simply stop making yourself available. There's no need for grand gestures or confrontations. Just quietly shift your focus. It's incredibly liberating, not because you're turning your back on the world, but because you're putting your well-being first. Self-love doesn't always mean saying no out loud. Sometimes it's about quietly saying enough. Identifying these relationships is simple. If every time you see a message from them, you feel a knot in your stomach, if spending time with them leaves you more drained than a week of hard work, or if you find that you're always the one giving and never receiving, then you have your answer. Once you realize this, it's time to eliminate the relationship without drama. You don't need unnecessary explanations or confrontations. Just move forward. This isn't about being cruel. It's about respecting yourself enough not to allow these people to continue draining your energy. That energy could be better spent on people or activities that truly nourish you. In the end, it's about being honest with yourself and putting your well-being above any guilt or fear of hurting others. Understand this clearly. Some people are like the wind. You can feel them, but you can't hold on to them. The best thing to do is let them go. Now, let's talk about destructive habits. You've probably caught yourself doing things that, when you really think about it, you know aren't doing you any good. These habits might seem insignificant at first, but over time, they gradually erode your mental or physical peace. I've fallen into that trap more times than I'd care to admit. It's the small, self-destructive habits that often go unnoticed, like a constant drip of water wearing down a rock. What if those small habits are the rocks in our lives? How do we eliminate them without creating a big spectacle? The first step is recognizing them. That's the tricky part. It's easy to point out what bothers us in others, but when it comes to our own behaviors, it's different. For example, how many times have you woken up, grabbed your phone without even thinking, only to find yourself mindlessly scrolling for 20 minutes? It's a harmless habit, but it sets the tone for your day. That's just one example. There's the extra cup of coffee you didn't need, the conversation you shouldn't have had, or the series you keep watching even though it's not adding anything to your life. These little things accumulate, and over time, they can create a bigger problem. Eliminating these habits isn't easy. How many times have you promised yourself that you'd quit something only to end up doing it again? You might say, "Tomorrow, I'll do better." But when tomorrow comes, it's just another day of excuses. This is where Stoic philosophy can help. The Stoics, those ancient philosophers, taught that true change doesn't happen overnight. It happens in small, quiet steps. You don't need to announce to the world that you're going to change, and you don't need to make a big gesture. Just start by observing. The key is awareness. When you catch yourself reaching for your phone for no reason, stop. It's not necessary to throw it out the window, though that might feel cathartic. Just put it down. When you realize you're on your third cup of coffee and you don't really need it, ask yourself why you're drinking it. If it's just habit, set the cup down. Sometimes the key to eliminating self-destructive habits is simply stopping at the right moment, without drama or monumental changes. It's about consistency, quietly making small shifts. If you don't see immediate progress, don't get discouraged. Just like when you plant a seed and forget about it, one day you'll look back and realize that growth has happened, quietly and without fanfare. Small efforts, over time, lead to big victories. So, when you recognize a habit that's taking away more than it's giving, eliminate it quietly. You don't need to announce it or make a scene. Just let it go, step by step, drop by drop. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "True change doesn't make noise, it just happens." Next, there's the desire to control everything. Have you ever felt like if you don't have complete control over everything around you, the world will fall apart? I completely understand. We like to believe that if we plan everything down to the last detail, life will operate like a perfectly oiled machine. But that's an illusion. The more we try to control everything, the more unbalanced we become. So, how are you doing with that desire for control? The truth is, it's a mental trap. It's a mirage that we build brick by brick every time we believe that if we try hard enough, we can make everything turn out exactly how we want. The universe doesn't work that way, and Stoic philosophy teaches us that the key is not in controlling the uncontrollable, but in letting go of what's unnecessary and focusing on what is truly within our control. Think about it. We try to control time, the opinions of others, the reactions we receive, and even the outcomes of things. But that's like trying to stop the tide with your hands. Nonsense. Yet, we do it all the time. And the more we try, the more frustrated we become when things don't turn out as expected. Imagine carrying a backpack, and every time you try to control something you can't, you add a stone to it. At first, it doesn't feel too heavy, but over time, the weight becomes unbearable. Wouldn't it be better to let go of those stones and make room for what truly matters? Focus on what you can control, your emotions, your actions. Everything else? Let it go. For a long time, I was obsessed with trying to anticipate every possible outcome, especially when it came to meetings or social events. I'd worry about every possible question or how an outing would go. It was exhausting. And of course, most of the things I worried about never happened. Eventually, I realized that trying to control everything only added anxiety and didn't give me more control. Little by little, I started letting go, trusting the process more. And you know what? Things still happened, sometimes good, sometimes not. But I felt lighter because I wasn't carrying that unnecessary weight anymore. Learning to trust life isn't about being passive. It's about having the maturity to accept that there are things beyond your control, and that's okay. Letting go of the need to control everything frees up space for the unexpected, for surprises, and for life to unfold naturally. It's not about doing nothing, it's about accepting what you can't change and focusing on what you can. True control comes from letting go, as Marcus Aurelius wisely noted in his Meditations. True control comes not from trying to manipulate every situation, but from letting go of those things that we cannot control. The reality is that many of us cling to the idea that we must have absolute control over everything in our lives. Have you ever felt that if you don't maintain a tight grip on every detail, things will fall apart? I certainly have. We often believe that if we can just plan things perfectly, foresee every possible issue, and have everything under control, life will work seamlessly. But this is an illusion. The more we try to control the uncontrollable, the more we start to feel out of balance. The trap is that by clinging to this need for control, we create our own mental prisons, brick by brick, as we try to control things that lie outside of our influence. This mindset is futile, like trying to stop the tide with your hands. Instead of obsessing over controlling the external world, Stoic philosophy teaches us to focus on what truly matters, our own actions and reactions. For instance, we can't control time, the opinions of others, or the outcomes of situations. Attempting to manage all of that is as pointless as trying to control the wind. Yet, we persist. The more we focus on what's beyond our reach, the heavier the mental burden becomes. Imagine carrying a backpack. Every time we try to control something we cannot, we add another stone to the bag. Initially, it might not feel heavy, but over time, the weight becomes unbearable. Wouldn't it be easier to just let go of those stones? Once we begin releasing the need for control, life feels lighter and more manageable. This doesn't mean we become passive or irresponsible, but rather we recognize that there are things in life that are simply beyond our control, and that is okay. By letting go of that need for control, we free ourselves and make space for peace and clarity. Take it from Marcus Aurelius, who reminds us that true power lies in letting go of the uncontrollable. Life flows more naturally when we stop trying to force every outcome, and instead learn to trust the process and focus only on what we can actually influence. This shift is liberating, and although it's not easy, it's essential for mental peace. Next comes the subject of unrealistic expectations. I don't know about you, but I've spent a good part of my life believing that perfection was the standard I needed to meet. No one explicitly told me this, but it was implied in the way others praised certain achievements, in the subtle yet constant comparisons made in everyday life, and in the societal pressures to do it all. Over time, I began to believe that if I met these expectations, I would find success and fulfillment. But in reality, these ideals are far from the truth. Striving to meet unrealistic expectations is like trying to fill a bottomless pit with a leaky bucket. It's an exhausting, futile endeavor. The more you try, the more you end up with frustration. What's worse is that many of these expectations aren't even ours to begin with. They're imposed upon us by family, friends, society, and sometimes even by our own inner dialogue. We take them on because, in our pursuit of self-improvement, we feel pressured to fulfill them. Here's an exercise I'd like to offer. Think of a time when you felt disappointed about not accomplishing something that, deep down, you didn't even care about. How many of your goals are driven by expectations that aren't even truly yours? Many times we set ourselves up with such high standards that when we fall short, we feel worthless. If we're not the best at our jobs, the perfect partner, or the model friend, we end up feeling inadequate. Stoic philosophy provides a refreshing perspective. The Stoics taught that we can't control how others perceive us, nor can we guarantee that the world will align with our wishes, but we can control how we respond to it. The key to relieving the pressure of unrealistic expectations is to lower them. This doesn't mean settling for mediocrity, but rather freeing ourselves from the weight of trying to be perfect. We no longer need to be bound by the pressure of meeting impossible standards. We simply need to exist and keep moving forward. Of course, this isn't something that happens overnight. It's more like cleaning out a closet full of clothes that no longer fit. It starts with identifying which expectations don't belong to you and gradually letting go of them. And then, look at the expectations that are truly yours. Are they realistic? You don't have to keep everything. A simple way to lower the burden of expectations is to change how you speak to yourself. For instance, instead of saying, "I must do everything perfectly," you can try telling yourself, "I will do my best with what I have now." This small shift is incredibly freeing, as it allows room for mistakes and improvement without the constant stress of perfection. Another effective way to reduce external pressures is by not sharing your plans with everyone. The fewer people know about what you're working on, the fewer expectations they will place on you. In the end, the less you expect, the more freedom you'll feel, and the less weight you'll carry. The need to always be right is another destructive habit that can be silently eliminated. Have you ever noticed that urge to always be the one who's right, to prove that you know everything? It's like turning every conversation into a battlefield, where winning means proving your superiority. But the truth is, you're not really fighting anyone but yourself. Every time you insist on having the last word or the right answer, it's as if you're trying to convince yourself that your value is tied to being right. It's mentally exhausting. Society, social media, and even family can make us believe that being wrong is a weakness. But here's a secret. Sometimes being right is the least important thing. Stoic philosophy teaches us that we cannot control the way others perceive us or the thoughts they have. In this endless race to prove we're right, we end up draining ourselves of energy. So how do we stop? The first step is to accept that you don't have to be the smartest person in every conversation. It's okay to be wrong, to not have an answer, or to not have a strong opinion on every issue. The second step is to learn how to listen. There's a big difference between hearing and truly listening. The first is simply a biological function, but the second is an art that few master. When you really listen, you stop feeling that anxious need to correct or prove your point. And finally, learn to embrace the silence. Sometimes the best argument is not to speak at all, but simply to let others share their views. After all, winning an argument is not the same as finding peace. The next area to address is digital noise. In today's world, we are constantly bombarded by digital distractions. We're surrounded by the incessant ping of social media notifications, endless messages, and constant updates. It seems as though everything is designed to pull our attention in 1,000 different directions, leaving us feeling like we're in control, when in fact, the chaos is controlling us. We live in an age where silence has become a rare luxury, but it's not as out of reach as it seems. To regain control of your attention, you need to start eliminating the sources of digital noise. I'm not suggesting that you cut yourself off completely from technology, but you need to be mindful of what's stealing your focus. The digital world is filled with noise, And the more accounts you follow, the more cluttered your mind becomes. It's easy to get caught up in endless scrolling, watching others' lives unfold. But all this noise is not adding value to your life. Start by eliminating the unnecessary accounts and notifications. You don't need to be constantly updated on every little detail. The more you reduce your digital distractions, the more you'll reclaim your peace and focus. It's a small step toward eliminating the noise that clutters your mind and learning to enjoy the silence. Let's start with social media. Yes, I know it sounds cliché, but trust me, the more accounts you follow, the more noise you're adding. I'm not saying you need to disconnect completely, but you have to be aware of the impact it has. Ask yourself, what did the cousin of a friend of your sister's friend post today? Eliminate everything that doesn't serve you. And just like you would tidy up your closet from time to time, do a digital cleanup. Clear out what no longer serves you and what should never have been there in the first place. One of the first things to go should be notifications. This is where things get interesting. Why do you allow your phone to interrupt you every 2 minutes? Every time you hear a vibration or a message, your brain jumps to attention, robbing you not just of time, but also of mental energy. Turn off all notifications that aren't essential. At first you might feel anxious, like you're missing out on something, but soon you'll realize how good it feels to take control of when and how you check your phone. And speaking of that, there's this thing called the fear of missing out, or FOMO. It's a modern villain we all live with, making us feel like we're losing something important if we're not connected. But here's an uncomfortable truth. What truly matters isn't on that screen. It's all around you, in the people, in the moments that go unnoticed, because you're always waiting for the latest viral meme. Get rid of that fear. Let go of the need to be in everything. The more you try to be everywhere, the more you miss out on what's truly meaningful. Once you get rid of the unnecessary noise, something magical happens. You start to hear what really matters. Digital silence becomes the first step toward reconnecting with yourself, your true priorities, and your ideas. This is where Stoic philosophy becomes relevant. You can't control everything that happens around you, but you can control how you respond to it. Believe me, once you remove the digital noise, everything else becomes clearer. So, my advice is this: choose silence, not as the absence of noise, but as the conscious presence of what you truly want in your life. In the end, that's the true luxury of our time. As Gandhi once said, peace doesn't come when the noise is turned off, but when you decide to listen to yourself. Now, let's talk about negative thoughts. Have you ever noticed how these negative thoughts sneak in without much fanfare, almost unnoticed, only to end up taking control of everything you do? They're like those neighbors who show up without warning and just never leave. The worst part is that you often let them in, not because you want to, but because they convince you that their presence is an inevitable part of your daily routine. But what if I told you that you could change the lock and kick them out? Let's be clear. These thoughts are nothing more than destructive patterns that end up shaping your actions in the worst possible way. How often have you found yourself thinking that everything is going wrong or that you'll never succeed? And of course, when you repeat those thoughts over and over, you start to believe them. What you believe, you begin to act on. It's like planting a poisonous tree and then wondering why its fruit isn't edible. The curious thing is that these negative thoughts are not necessarily reality. They only feel as real as the ground beneath your feet. This is where Stoic philosophy steps in with its brutal simplicity. You can't always control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond to it. It may sound simple, but it's something most of us forget. Those mental patterns can dictate your emotions and actions when the real freedom lies in taking control of your responses. Of course, it's not something that changes overnight. The first key is silence. Yes, you read that right. Silently eliminate the thoughts you don't need. You don't need to put on a show to remove them. It's simply about recognizing when a negative thought appears, identifying it, and moving on without feeding it. The more attention you give it, the more power you give it. It's like a fly in the room. If you obsess over catching it, you're just making it worse. Why not just ignore it until it eventually tires itself out? Another powerful technique is to question these thoughts every time they assault you. Ask yourself, is this really true? Is everything really going wrong for me? Or is this just an exaggerated perception? Often you'll realize that these thoughts are inflated and don't have a real basis. And if they do have some truth, at least you can start thinking about solutions instead of wallowing in the problem. Lastly, there's detachment. I'm not suggesting you become a monk on top of a mountain, but you do need to start taking emotional distance from the thoughts you think are yours. They're not you, and just because something passes through your mind doesn't mean it should stay there. With practice, you'll begin to see these thoughts as what they really are: simple passing clouds in a sky that is always there, firm and unshaken. Negative thoughts are those little things you should eliminate quietly from your life. No need for a big fuss, just a change of focus, patience, and internal questioning. At the end of the day, what you think shapes what you do, and what you do defines who you are. As Brian Tracy said, thoughts are not facts, but if you believe them, they become your reality. Next, let's address physical and mental disorder. There are days when you wake up and feel like the world is weighing a bit more than usual. You look around and you realize it's not just a feeling. It's that your space is cluttered. Objects, papers, clothes thrown on the chair. It's a mess. And somehow it feels like your mind is just as disordered. I don't know if this happens to you, but when my surroundings are chaotic, I feel like my mind follows suit. Physical and mental disorder are more connected than we realize. There's something deeply unsettling about disorder in your space. It directly affects your mental clarity. The Stoics, for instance, spoke about focusing on the essentials and eliminating the superfluous. Disorder is the opposite of that. It's all the unnecessary distractions that drive you crazy. The accumulation of things doesn't just take up physical space. It consumes your energy. All that clutter, every item out of place, every paper strewn about, adds mental noise. It fills your mind with little pending tasks and worries you didn't even know you had. You know that feeling of wanting to organize something but not knowing where to start? That's the trick. Don't try to do it all at once. Just silently eliminate what's no longer useful. The first step is simple. Observe. Look around you and ask yourself, do I really need all of this? If you haven't used something in a long time, chances are you don't need it anymore. But it's not just about physical stuff. Mental clutter works the same way. We accumulate thoughts, worries, and emotions like someone hoarding broken objects, thinking they might be useful one day. But the truth is, keeping all that only weighs us down. So what should you do? Eliminate it, quietly, little by little. You don't need to make a big show of it. You don't need to explain yourself to anyone. Just let it go. This applies to both physical and mental clutter. Sometimes silence is an act of rebellion in a world that is constantly noisy. If there are people in your life who bring discomfort, if there are projects that no longer motivate you or thoughts that only drain you, get rid of them, without drama, without explanations. Just let them go. Remember, The state of your external environment often reflects your inner state. So, if you start bringing a little more clarity to your surroundings, you'll begin to notice how that clarity also makes its way into your mind. It's not magic, it's a process. Just like when you clean out a drawer and suddenly feel lighter. Each thing you put in its place is one less worry. Every item you get rid of brings you one step closer to a lighter, clearer life. The Stoics didn't complicate things with unnecessary distractions. They understood that the key is to focus on the important stuff, what really deserves your attention, and to let everything else go. And that's how we should live too. In a world full of physical and mental disorder, it can feel like walking through a maze with no way out. But when you begin getting rid of what you don't need, you'll realize that the way out was always there. You just couldn't see it because of all the extra baggage. If you want peace of mind, start by organizing what's around you. Do it slowly, without rushing or making noise. Just eliminate quietly and consistently. Your mind will thank you. As Nelson Mandela once said, when the noise is silenced, the essential can be heard more clearly. Finally, let's talk about unnecessary comparisons. Why do you constantly compare yourself to others? I'm sure you've done it, and let's be honest, we all do it. But do you really think it's helpful? It's like racing in a competition where the other competitors aren't even in the race. Comparing yourself to others often feels like you're competing in a race where the other participants aren't even aware they're in it. And worse, they probably don't care about it at all. Meanwhile, you're fixated on each step, each stumble, each little bit of progress, not your own, but that of others. This habit of comparison is like trying to win a singing contest while using someone else's voice. It's completely pointless. You have your own melody and rhythm, yet you insist on following someone else's score. The problem is that what may seem like a harmless habit gradually chips away at your self-esteem. One day, you wake up and feel like you're not enough. You're not fast enough, not good enough, just not enough. And all of this happens because you've been too busy looking around at others instead of focusing on your own path. The truth is that life isn't a sprint. It's more like a boat journey. You're the one who decides the course, the stops, and the pace. But if you're too focused on the boats passing you by, the only thing you're accomplishing is steering your own boat off course. What's interesting is that while you're watching the other boats, the people on those boats are probably doing the exact same thing, watching yours. That's how absurd the act of comparison really is. Everyone is busy looking at everyone else, but no one is truly enjoying their own journey. Here's a thought. Stop comparing yourself silently. Do it the same way you'd get rid of an old t-shirt you no longer wear. No one needs to know, but you'll notice the change. Comparing yourself to others is not only pointless, it's a betrayal of who you are. It's like telling yourself that you're not good enough, that you need to be someone else in order to matter. But when you think about it, that way of thinking makes no sense. The Stoics understood this well. The only person you should compare yourself to is the person you were yesterday. So, when that little voice inside your head starts making comparisons, don't just stay silent. That won't help. It will only make the voice louder. Instead, listen to it, but question its logic. Why are you comparing yourself to that particular person? What makes you feel inferior? And here's where it gets important. Remember everything you've achieved on your own journey. Take a moment to reflect on your own progress, even the small steps forward. You'd be surprised how easily we forget our achievements when we're constantly looking at what others are doing. Another effective strategy is to practice gratitude. I know it may sound cliché, but I assure you it's powerful. Be thankful for what you have, for what you've achieved, for who you are. When you focus on what you already have, rather than what you lack or what others possess, something shifts. Suddenly, the weight of comparison begins to fade, and you start to see that the only path that truly matters is your own. In the end, life is too short to waste time competing in a race that isn't even real. Comparing yourself only distracts you from what truly matters. Living your life according to your own pace and on your own terms. And believe me, once you start doing that, you'll realize how freeing it is. I want to leave you with a reflection that helped me immensely in my toughest moments. My friend once told me that when you stop seeing yourself through the eyes of others, you discover who you truly are. If you've made it this far, leave a comment. In silence, you will find your answer. I'd love to hear about your success stories. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment so that YouTube can recognize that these videos are valuable to people like you. Your support motivates us to keep creating similar content in the future. I also suggest you check out the last 2 videos we recommended. Thank you so much for your time and support. See you soon in our next adventure. Have you ever felt invisible or unappreciated by your own children? Have you ever had the painful realization that despite everything you've done for them, they treat you as though you mean nothing? If you've ever felt that way, you are not alone. It's one of the most heartbreaking experiences any parent can go through. But today, I want to share something that might bring you hope, because not all is lost. In this video, we're going to explore how Stoic wisdom and practical philosophy can help you completely transform the way you relate to your children. Even in moments where you feel ignored, rejected, or disrespected, there is a powerful path, not one of forcing them to change, but rather a deeper, life-changing shift that begins within you. When your perspective changes, everything around you begins to shift too. My name is Gabriel, and if this is your first time visiting, I invite you to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Stay with me until the end, because what we're going to uncover together today can truly change your life and heal the most important relationships in it. Let's begin with a powerful truth: the strength of detachment without abandoning love. When your children ignore you or show a lack of respect, the emotional pain can run deep. That painful distance where there was once closeness can bring up sadness, frustration, and even resentment. But this is where the Stoic idea of detachment can become your lifeline, not detachment from love itself, but from the expectations and emotional weight we tie to how others respond to our love. True Stoic detachment doesn't ask you to stop loving or to cut emotional ties with your children. It invites you to love fully, without depending on how they behave or whether they reciprocate. One of the most profound teachings in Stoicism is the realization that we do not have control over the actions of others. We only have control over how we respond to them. Epictetus captured it perfectly. It's not the events themselves that disturb us, but the judgments we place upon them. Your children may act in ways that wound you, but you still hold the power to define what that behavior means to you, and more importantly, how you choose to respond to it emotionally. Detachment, then, is not about becoming cold or emotionally distant. It's not a rejection of your relationship with your children. It's about liberating yourself from the suffering caused by their behavior. It's about understanding that their actions do not determine your worth or define who you are as a parent. It's a way to maintain a love that is unconditional while letting go of the desire to control how they see you or treat you. Here's a perspective I want to offer you. Imagine that your love is like the sun. The sun shines, gives warmth and light, not because it expects something in return, but because that is simply its nature. It doesn't withhold its light when people criticize it, nor does it shine brighter when people praise it. It just shines. This is the heart of detachment, learning to love like the sun, giving freely without tying your well-being to how others receive it. Jiddu Krishnamurti, a brilliant philosopher, once said that true freedom is not found in chasing security, it's found in detachment. In this context, that means your peace of mind and emotional strength must not be based on whether your children behave the way you hope they will. You can still love them with all your heart, but the deep need to be seen and validated by them is what you must begin to release. You might be wondering, how can I love my children if they don't treat me with respect? And the answer lies in understanding the difference between detachment and disconnection. Detachment is emotionally healthy because it allows you to remain centered even when your children disappoint you or respond with indifference. It's not about withdrawing your love. It's about releasing the pain that comes from unmet expectations. Disconnection, on the other hand, is what we want to avoid. It's emotional withdrawal and coldness. The key is this: the respect and attention you long for should not be the foundation of your inner peace. If you build your emotional stability on how others behave, you will always be vulnerable. But if you learn to love freely without clinging to specific outcomes, you will strengthen your inner peace. Ironically, when you let go of needing their validation, you often find that others, your children included, begin to respond to you in a new way. Detachment is not the end of love, it's the maturation of it. It's the ability to remain loving without being emotionally shattered when your love isn't returned the way you hoped. This gives you the emotional space to continue being a presence of wisdom and light for your children without losing yourself in the process. Because ultimately, your sense of peace, your serenity, your quiet integrity, that is what can open the door for your children to see you with a new kind of respect. Let's explore another powerful truth. You don't need to be accepted to be respected. One of the most painful things about feeling ignored or disrespected by your children is the sense that you've lost the place you once had in their hearts and lives. And while all of us long for respect, the path to restoring it isn't through demands, it's through inspiration. Too often, we confuse being respected with being accepted. We believe that unless our children accept our choices, our way of life, or our past sacrifices, they can't truly respect us. But respect doesn't work that way. Immanuel Kant, one of the great philosophers of the Enlightenment, said that self-respect is the foundation of all virtue. This is the essence of what we must remember. Respect begins inside you. It's not about convincing your children to accept you. It's about living in such a way that you earn respect, whether or not they agree with you. It's easy to fall into the trap of wanting your children to understand your past, to recognize your sacrifices, to appreciate the choices you've made. But constantly looking for that validation becomes a source of pain and discouragement. What truly transforms relationships is when you stop seeking that approval and begin living from your inner integrity. Your children don't need to agree with your path in order to respect you. What they need is to see that you are unwavering in your principles, steady in your values, and composed in your actions. Think for a moment about someone you deeply respect, perhaps a historical figure, a leader, or a mentor. Chances are you don't respect them because they did everything others expected of them. You respect them because they had the courage to be true to themselves, even when misunderstood. That same strength is inside you. Your children may not understand you, and they might not agree with your lifestyle or choices. But if you continue to act with consistency, clarity, and honor, the respect will eventually follow. This is where Stoicism becomes a powerful guide. It gives you the internal strength to endure disrespect without falling apart. Seneca said that nobility of character is seen in how we live, not in what others say about us. So, if you live with patience, wisdom, and peace, you won't need anyone else to validate you, because you'll already be whole within yourself. Picture this. Your children observe you staying calm through adversity. They notice that you don't get desperate for their approval or attention. That quiet strength begins to speak louder than any words you could say. What ultimately shifts their perception isn't argument or confrontation. It's your calm and steady example. Sometimes, the disconnection in our relationships with our children comes from trying too hard to become what we think they want, instead of remaining true to who we really are. But when you stop bending and start standing, something inside them shifts too. You don't have to demand respect. You become the example of it. The deeper truth is this: you don't need to be accepted to be respected. But for respect to take root, it must first be cultivated within. So stop molding yourself to fit into your children's expectations. Live by your own values, and in time, respect will come back to you, often when you least expect it. Finally, let's talk about breaking the cycle of silence, not with noise, but with wisdom. When your children ignore you, the natural impulse is often to raise your voice, to argue, to confront them with harsh words just to be heard. Recognize your worth and allow yourself to be heard. However, what we often fail to realize is that raising our voices or making noise doesn't bring us closer. It actually distances us further from understanding and truth. True strength is not found in breaking the silence with shouting, but in disrupting it with wisdom. In relationships, silence can feel heavy and painful. Maybe you've experienced moments where your words seem to lose significance, especially in your children's lives. But what if, instead of viewing silence as rejection or distance, you saw it as an opportunity for conscious, intentional stillness? The wise do not react on impulse or try to be heard by creating noise. Instead, they respond with thoughtful reflection and grounded presence. One of the fundamental teachings of Taoism reminds us, "Those who know do not speak, those who speak do not know." This ancient insight calls us to realize that the real power in a relationship lies not in the number of words we speak, but in how wisely we handle moments of tension. So instead of breaking the silence with loud complaints or demands, consider breaking it with a calm gesture, a small action that shows your peace is still intact, even if you feel unheard. Let's bring this into a real-life scenario. Imagine your children no longer call or check in as they once did. You could confront them with a list of grievances, pointing out how much they've changed or how hurt you feel. But most likely, this approach would only build more distance. Now imagine a different response. What if, instead of criticizing, you simply listened when they finally reached out? What if, instead of forcing a conversation, you quietly created a space for openness and understanding? Noise tends to trigger resistance, while wise silence has the power to invite true connection. Stoic philosophy teaches us not to respond impulsively, but to observe before we speak. Epictetus once advised us to remember that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, so that we might listen more than we speak. This doesn't mean we should remain completely silent. It means we should wait for the right moment to respond with wisdom. When we choose to disrupt the silence through peaceful actions, like an honest conversation at the appropriate time or a simple, generous gesture, we open the door to deeper transformation than any outburst ever could. Breaking silence wisely is not about pushing for communication, but about shifting the energy of the relationship. Perhaps your children have distanced themselves because they feel that every dialogue leads to argument, or maybe they don't feel truly heard. If you can demonstrate through your calmness and actions that you're ready for a different kind of connection, one based on understanding instead of control, the wall of silence will begin to dissolve. This does not mean passively accepting silence that causes pain. It means using the stillness to regain your emotional balance and choosing how to respond with wisdom. Instead of bombarding them with questions like, "Why don't you call?" or "Why don't you visit?" consider writing them a heartfelt letter, one that shares your feelings without blame. Sometimes the most powerful way to break silence is with an unexpected gesture of affection or a small, thoughtful act with no expectation of an immediate response. Rumi, the great Persian poet, beautifully said, "Raise your words, not your voice. It is rain that grows flowers, not thunder." This reflects the heart of what it means to break silence with wisdom. It's not about how loudly or how much you speak. It's about the quality of your communication. When your children sense that, despite everything, you remain a source of peace and understanding, the seeds of mutual respect and dialogue can begin to grow. So next time silence appears in your relationship with your children, don't rush to fill it with noise. Break the pattern with wisdom, with serenity, and you may witness a meaningful shift not only in them, but in yourself as well. Change the narrative, and you will change the relationship. Often, the greatest barrier in our connection with our children is not their behavior, but the story we tell ourselves about their behavior. When we feel ignored or disrespected, we tend to create internal narratives filled with assumptions, hurt, and misinterpretation. But this lesson invites you to pause and reflect. Is what I believe is happening really true? Or is it just my own version of the story? Buddha taught that pain is a part of life, but suffering is optional. Much of the suffering in our relationships doesn't stem directly from what others do, but from the way we interpret their actions. For example, maybe your child doesn't call you as often. Your mind may spin a narrative like, "They don't love me," or "I don't matter to them," but the truth could be something entirely different. Maybe they're overwhelmed, facing their own struggles, or unsure of how to reconnect. The stories we tell ourselves shape our reality. Changing the narrative means examining those internal stories and asking if they truly match the facts. Consider how your reactions shift depending on how you interpret a situation. If you believe you're being ignored out of neglect, you may become defensive, distant, or hurt. But if you tell yourself that perhaps your child is just going through a hard time and doesn't know how to talk about it, your response becomes more compassionate and open. Imagine that every moment with your children is like a movie playing out in your mind, and you are the screenwriter. If you write the story from a place of pain, that movie becomes a heartbreaking drama. But if you decide to rewrite it with empathy and understanding, the tension softens and new possibilities emerge. Stoicism also reminds us to question our perceptions. Epictetus said, "It's not things that upset us, but our opinions about them." In other words, transformation often begins not by changing others, but by re-evaluating how we interpret their actions. When you start to look beyond surface behaviors and consider alternative explanations for your children's choices, you begin to release unnecessary pain. This shift makes space for healthier, more peaceful relationships. Let's look at a practical example. Suppose your son cancels a visit you had both planned. Immediately your mind might jump to, "He doesn't care," or "I'm not important anymore." But what if you chose a different story, one where he's simply overwhelmed, dealing with a situation he hasn't shared? This compassionate lens helps you respond calmly and keep the door open for deeper connection in the future. Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." Often, the stories we tell about others' behavior are shaped by our own unmet needs or past wounds. When your children act in ways that don't meet your expectations, it can be helpful to turn inward and explore what those expectations are and where they come from. This kind of self-inquiry allows you to begin dismantling harmful assumptions and replacing them with more balanced perspectives. Changing the narrative is not about pretending that everything is fine or avoiding real issues. It's about approaching the relationship from a fresh angle. Instead of focusing only on your pain, try to see what your children might be struggling to express. By shifting how you understand their actions, you can break the inner cycle of conflict and open the door to healing, connection, and mutual respect. So the next time you feel neglected or disrespected, take a pause before you react. Ask yourself, what story am I telling myself about this? Is it actually true? And then ask, is there another story I could believe? One that is gentler, more understanding, and less painful? Sometimes, the simple act of changing your internal narrative is powerful enough to transform the entire relationship dynamic. If you've found this video meaningful so far and feel like you're uncovering new ways to respond to disconnection or disrespect with wisdom and calm, I encourage you to subscribe and give it a like. Your support helps me continue creating content that uplifts and empowers people like you. People seeking to navigate their relationships with grace, strength, and dignity. Stay tuned until the end, because the final lesson could truly shift how you see serenity, not just as a tool for peace, but as your greatest strength in reclaiming respect and harmony in your life. Peace in your relationships continues with a powerful insight. Remove expectations and start listening. One of the main sources of pain and frustration in our relationships stems from the expectations we silently carry. With our children, it's often the unmet hope that they'll call us more frequently, that they'll show they care like they once did, or that they'll value us in the way we believe we deserve. But more often than not, these expectations we've built over time become emotional traps that push us further apart from them. The key isn't to expect more from them. It's to begin listening in a new and more compassionate way, setting aside the painful expectations. When we cling to an idea of how our children should act or express their love, anything that doesn't align with that image becomes a source of hurt. But the issue doesn't always lie in their behavior. The true source of pain is often the disconnect between what we expected and what is real. Seneca once said, "The greater the expectation, the greater the suffering." This reminds us that to live with greater calm and less emotional tension, we need to release our rigid expectations and focus on what is actually unfolding. Letting go of expectations doesn't mean you have to accept being treated poorly or ignored without reason. It simply means loosening your grip on idealized versions of how your children should behave, so that you can begin to see them with clarity and honesty. When you release those internal demands of how they ought to treat you, you create space to truly listen, not just with your ears, but with your heart. This new openness allows you to better perceive what they are actually feeling and needing. And it is within this space that genuine connection can begin. Imagine for a moment having a conversation with your child, but instead of waiting for them to say what you want to hear, an apology, a show of affection, some expression of appreciation, you simply listen. You pay attention not just to their words, but also to their silences, their hesitations, and even the things they avoid saying. Sometimes their distance is not rejection, but a reflection of their own personal battles. Yet, when we're caught up in our expectations, we miss these subtle signals. We're too focused on what we want them to say or do, and that fixation prevents us from hearing what they're actually trying to express. A Buddhist master named Nhat Hanh once taught that listening with compassion is healing. When we listen without the heavy weight of expectations, we not only help heal the relationship, we also begin to heal ourselves. When we stop demanding that our children meet certain emotional standards, we begin to uncover what they're truly telling us through their actions, their behavior, and even their silence. This shift in perception allows us to find new paths to closeness. Take a common example. When our children don't reach out as often as we'd like. Days, weeks, or even months may go by without a call, and each passing day deepens our disappointment and resentment. But what if we stopped waiting for that call? What if, instead, we reached out simply to ask how they are, without blame, without judgment, just genuine concern? By choosing to listen rather than accuse, we invite more authentic interactions. We give them space to be themselves without feeling like they're constantly falling short of our emotional needs. They may not suddenly change or become more expressive, but their perception of us shifts. We're no longer the ones demanding or expecting. We become someone willing to understand. And it's vital to remember that our children may also be burdened by their own expectations, especially those they believe we hold over them. Their silence or distance might not be a sign of rejection. It might be fear. Fear of disappointing us. Fear of not being enough. But when we release our expectations and begin listening with true openness, we give them permission to be themselves, free from the pressure to meet invisible standards. And in doing so, we both have the opportunity to rediscover each other in a more honest and loving way. Letting go of expectations isn't about abandoning your desires. It's about creating space for relationships to grow in a more sincere and meaningful direction. By freeing ourselves from inner demands, we foster a climate of respect and understanding. What matters most isn't whether your children fulfill every hope you've silently carried, but how present you can be for them, and how they, in turn, feel safe enough to be present for you. So the next time you feel hurt by what they didn't say or do, ask yourself, what expectation am I holding on to that's causing me pain? And once you see it, truly try, to let it go. Instead of waiting, begin listening. You'll find that in doing so, the dynamics naturally shift, and closeness can begin to grow in its own time. Compassion begins with understanding your path. When your children seem distant or unresponsive, it's natural to ask, "What did I do wrong?" Or, "Why are they treating me like this?" These feelings are deeply human. Our emotional responses often drive us to either blame ourselves or view the situation solely through the lens of injustice. But a profound step toward healing is shifting our perspective, choosing to cultivate compassion, not just for them, but also for ourselves. Compassion in this context doesn't mean justifying every hurtful behavior or turning a blind eye to emotional neglect. It means seeking a deeper connection, rooted in understanding. Try to see the difficulties your children may be facing, the emotional burdens, the challenges at work, the tensions in their own families. When you make the effort to understand their world, your interpretation of their actions changes. This isn't about making excuses. It's about recognizing that behind every distance, there's often an untold story. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, advised us to consider our own flaws when confronting the mistakes of others. Reflect on how often you've stumbled, misunderstood, or withdrawn in times of stress. His wisdom reminds us to widen our view, not just to see the hurt we feel, but also to remember that everyone, even our children, is facing their own inner struggles. In this wider lens, we can choose compassion over resentment. However, compassion should never mean tolerating ongoing harm. It's not a call to self-sacrifice. Rather, it's an invitation to hold space for both your feelings and theirs, to acknowledge your pain without closing yourself off from understanding theirs. Perhaps your children are overwhelmed, emotionally exhausted, or lacking the skills to express themselves without seeming detached. Maybe they're navigating difficult relationships, raising children of their own, or trying to make sense of their purpose in life. When someone is consumed by their own chaos, they often don't have the capacity to be fully present, even for those they love most. If you can view their behavior through this lens, you'll begin to understand that their distance isn't always about how they feel about you, but about what they're enduring themselves. The Dalai Lama once said that compassion is simply the wish for others to be free from suffering. It's a simple concept, yet it carries deep transformative power. It encourages us to look beyond behavior and into the heart of what our loved ones might be going through. Perhaps your children don't know how to speak about their struggles. Maybe they fear you won't understand or worry that their problems seem trivial compared to what you've endured. What matters most is creating space where they feel safe to share, without being judged, without being pressured. A small shift in how we communicate can make all the difference. Instead of asking why they haven't called, consider asking gently, "How are you, really?" Or, "Is something weighing on your mind?" This moves the conversation from one of confrontation to one of care. It replaces demand with empathy. Remember, compassion doesn't always mean fixing their problems. Sometimes the most powerful act is simply being there, offering your presence, your calm, and your attention. Let them know that they have a space with you where they are free to be vulnerable, messy, and real. In doing so, you invite them into a deeper relationship, one built not on expectations, but on understanding and mutual respect. Stoicism teaches us to accept what we cannot change, but also to be a pillar of calm and stability for others. Your children, even if they don't show it outwardly, still look to you as a source of strength, guidance, and quiet wisdom. When you embrace compassion and seek to understand their path, you become that very anchor for them, a steady presence in the midst of their inner storms. You offer a gentle reminder that love and respect are not lost forever. They can be rebuilt when both sides are willing to meet with empathy and open hearts. So the next time you feel invisible or misunderstood, pause and ask yourself, what part of their journey am I missing? What unseen struggle might they be facing? When you open the door to compassion, you begin to notice that even if transformation isn't immediate, something within the relationship starts to soften. That shift begins by seeing their path through the eyes of understanding. That single act of awareness can become the first step toward true reconnection. Serenity is where that path ultimately leads. Serenity is your final answer. When emotional friction with your children becomes the norm and the closeness you once had feels lost, it may seem like your efforts have no power to shift the dynamic. But there is something incredibly powerful that always remains within your grasp. Serenity. Learning to nurture a peaceful mind doesn't just change your internal world. It has the potential to completely alter the way your relationship unfolds. Stoic wisdom reminds us that while we cannot control the actions of others, we always have the power to choose our response. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed." This simple yet profound truth reveals one of our greatest human powers, the ability to determine how we allow life's challenges to affect us. Yes, your children may behave in ways that wound you, but the peace you create inside yourself is unshakable if you make the choice to protect it. Serenity is not the same as surrender or indifference. It is an intentional, courageous stance you choose to take. It's acknowledging that even if you cannot force your children to treat you a certain way or demand the kind of respect you yearn for, you can still stand firmly in your own inner calm. And from that place of peace, you become a magnetic presence, an unspoken invitation for them to draw closer. Often, when we try to control or correct others, it only deepens the conflict. But when we remain calm, we embody a quiet strength that is impossible to overlook. Think of your children as the wind, sometimes warm and gentle, other times wild and unpredictable. If you are like a ship that reacts to every gust, you'll constantly be thrown off course, emotionally exhausted and disoriented. But if you become like a lighthouse, grounded and radiant, you shine steadily even when the storm is raging. Your serenity becomes your anchor, your unwavering presence in the chaos. And from that place, you project both strength and wisdom. The great Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu once said, "The best fight is no fight." This doesn't mean you should give up on your relationship with your children or tolerate everything. Rather, it means you no longer exhaust yourself in every emotional confrontation. You stop entering into battles that lead nowhere. When you choose calm over conflict, you become a living example of how one can live with dignity and self-respect without needing to control everything. A practical example of this might be how you respond when you feel ignored. Instead of letting frustration or anger take over, practice the pause. Breathe. Take a moment to center yourself and reflect on what is really happening. Ask yourself, will my reaction help heal this situation, or will it only make things worse? That brief pause gives you back your power, the power to act with wisdom instead of impulse. It transforms not just how you feel, but also how others perceive you. Even if they don't express it, your children will sense the difference. Your calm presence becomes noticeable. That peaceful energy you emit acts like a gentle light guiding them back to you. Maybe not today, maybe not in the way you imagined, but serenity has its own quiet force. It commands respect without needing to raise its voice. The great psychologist Viktor Frankl, who survived the horrors of the Holocaust, once wrote in his masterpiece, Man's Search for Meaning, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies our power to choose our response, and in our response lies our growth and our freedom." Serenity is what creates that space, the space where healing and transformation can begin. Ultimately, Serenity does not mean you never feel pain or that you aren't affected when things hurt. It simply means you choose not to stay stuck in that pain. It means you decide that your peace of mind will not be dictated by others' behavior, but by your own inner values and how you choose to live. That is the highest form of self-respect. So when you find yourself feeling dismissed, disrespected, or disconnected from your children, remember this: serenity is your most powerful tool. You don't have to win every emotional argument to live a meaningful, dignified life. By remaining calm, you don't just find peace for yourself. You create a space where the relationship can slowly begin to heal. Because even in the fiercest storms, calm always finds its way home. The bond we share with our children is one of life's deepest and most complex ties. Feeling unseen or disrespected by them can be heartbreaking. But as we've explored today, the answer doesn't lie in forcing them to act differently. It lies in the way we cultivate our own peace, wisdom, and strength. Detachment, compassion, and serenity. These are the quiet powers that allow you to live with grace, and in doing so, you project the very respect you hope to receive, beginning with your own children. Remember, you don't need approval to be worthy of respect. You don't have to step into every conflict. True change begins with you, and when you choose to remain calm, clear, and grounded in your integrity, you create the conditions where the relationship can evolve. My name is Gabriel, and if this is your first time on the channel, I invite you to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the meaningful topics we'll explore next. And if you've made it to the end of this message, that means you truly value your personal growth, and that deserves recognition. To show me you're one of the committed ones, leave the phrase "I am Stoic" in the comments and tell me where in the world you're listening from. I'd love to know which countries are walking this path of self-discovery with me. And before you go, consider sharing this video with someone who may need these words today. You never know how much a small piece of insight can change a person's direction. I'll see you in the next video. Stay calm, stay strong. Today, we're going to explore how to start your day with a Stoic mindset. The way we begin our mornings has the power to shape the entire course of our day. Stoicism, an ancient but timeless philosophy, offers us profound lessons for this daily reset. Marcus Aurelius, one of the great Stoic thinkers, reminds us of the privilege of simply being alive, to breathe, to exist. Rather than allowing stress or a foul mood to dominate our mornings, we can choose to greet the day with a mindset rooted in love, awareness, and appreciation. Let's dive into 15 things we should avoid first thing in the morning by applying Stoic principles. Small but powerful changes that can transform not only our mornings, but our entire lives. Stay with me as we discover how shifting our morning mindset with Stoicism can lead to a more balanced, joyful, and meaningful life. Let's begin with one of the most common traps: clinging to your phone. Starting your morning by diving into your smartphone immediately clouds your clarity. In today's fast-paced world, it's almost instinctual. We wake up and grab our phones, instantly pulling ourselves into the chaos of the digital world. But what does this really do for our peace of mind? Stoic philosophers like Seneca warned against wasting precious time and beginning the day by absorbing external noise. When we allow the world's frenzy to flood into our minds before we've even connected with ourselves, we weaken our foundation for the day. Think of your mind as a quiet garden at dawn. Reaching for your phone is like planting weeds in that garden instead of nourishing it with flowers. Why not sow seeds of peace and intention instead? A short meditation, a few minutes of gratitude, or even the simple joy of quietude can shape a day that's more grounded and purposeful. Marcus Aurelius taught that the quality of our thoughts determines the happiness of our lives. When we begin the day with digital noise, we sabotage our inner clarity and purpose. Our brains, much like eager sponges, absorb what we expose them to. Feed it with chaos, and it will carry that through the day. Feed it with peace, and the difference will be remarkable. Challenge yourself to break the habit. Let your phone wait. Embrace the morning silence. Breathe deeply. Reflect. Set a gentle but firm intention for your day. This subtle shift can transform how you handle everything that comes your way. Remember, you are the gardener of your own mind. Tend to it with care from the very first light, and you'll harvest a life of greater balance and satisfaction. The digital world can wait. Your well-being should not. Another trap we often fall into is giving in to negativity as soon as we open our eyes. Whether it's grumbling about the quality of our sleep or dreading the arrival of Monday, these thoughts immediately set a negative tone. Stoic wisdom, especially from Epictetus, reminds us that it's not the events themselves, but our responses to them that determine our experience. Visualize your mind as a garden once again. Complaints are weeds that stifle the growth of anything good. Instead of letting those weeds grow, how about planting seeds of gratitude? Marcus Aurelius noted that the nature of our thoughts defines our happiness. So instead of getting lost in regret or resistance, challenge yourself to find 3 things to be thankful for. It could be the scent of freshly brewed coffee, the warm sunlight streaming through your window, or the anticipation of seeing a loved one. This isn't about toxic positivity. It's about giving your mind a compass, a direction. Our brains work like emotional GPS systems. The direction you set early on influences your entire journey. Gratitude shifts that direction toward joy. It not only uplifts our spirit, but strengthens our capacity to meet challenges with grace. Imagine waking up, pausing for a breath, and feeling genuine appreciation for your home, for your health, for a fresh start. That small shift in perspective has the power to transform not just your morning, but your whole day. Complaining may feel easy, but it rarely serves us. Gratitude, on the other hand, is a muscle. The more you work it, the more natural it becomes. You may be surprised how this simple change rewires the rest of your day. So next time the alarm rings, resist the urge to grumble. Pause, breathe, and look for what you can be thankful for. Follow Epictetus's wisdom and witness how this humble morning practice gradually illuminates not only your day, but your entire life. Another silent trap is procrastination. Lingering in bed when it's time to rise. Wake up with energy and a willingness to embrace the day ahead. Hitting snooze again and again may seem harmless, but it actually undermines our energy and motivation. Each time we delay getting up, we disrupt our sleep cycles, which can leave us groggy and scattered. Stoic philosophy offers a powerful antidote: the discipline of self-mastery. Epictetus said that true freedom is found in self-control. Marcus Aurelius reminded us to wake with gratitude and purpose. What if we began to view waking up not as a burden, but as a celebration of life itself? Instead of fighting the alarm, we could greet each new morning as a gift, another chance to grow, to learn, to live. Awakening with intention becomes an energizing force, setting the rhythm for a day of purpose. Rising immediately when the alarm rings becomes a declaration of discipline, a way to strengthen your resolve and take charge of your day. Picture yourself starting with mental sharpness and physical readiness instead of dragging yourself through fatigue and guilt. This simple act of getting up on time can spark a ripple effect throughout your entire routine. The next time your alarm goes off, remember, it's not just a noise, it's a signal, a reminder that you have another opportunity to live fully. Wake up with gratitude. Embrace the day. Witness how that one act can elevate not only your morning, but your life. Then there's the often overlooked habit of neglecting hydration. As we open our eyes in the morning, many of us skip this essential ritual. But after a long night of sleep, our body craves water. It's asking us to replenish what's been lost. Hydration is the most basic and immediate way to awaken our body and energize our mind. Marcus Aurelius taught that the thoughts we feed ourselves shape our happiness. And what better way to prepare the mind than by caring for the vessel that holds it? Drinking water in the morning is like flipping the switch on your inner engine. It kickstarts your organs, wakes up your digestion, and floods your cells with life-giving energy. To drink water first thing is to send your body a clear message. You matter. It's an act of self-respect that sets the tone for your entire day. Water doesn't just hydrate, it detoxifies, energizes, and clears the fog from your mind. Picture yourself savoring those first sips. The cool liquid awakening every fiber of your being, reviving you. It's like watering the soil of your day, ensuring that whatever you plant will thrive. So before you rush into your to-do list or scroll through notifications, pause, take a breath, reach for that glass of water, feel life moving through you again. This seemingly small ritual is a powerful daily reset, a conscious way to step into the day clear, alert, and aligned. Just like a musical instrument must be tuned before a concert, your body deserves the same care. Morning hydration is your way of preparing for the performance of life. Nourish yourself, reawaken, and go forward with renewed strength and clarity. Lastly, don't abandon your sense of calm. The moment of waking up marks the beginning of a sacred transition, from rest to activity, from dream to reality. Let this be a gentle crossing, not a chaotic leap. Give yourself permission to rise slowly, with intention and awareness. Don't allow external pressures to dictate the rhythm of your awakening. The Stoics knew the importance of inner peace, especially in a world that constantly tries to disrupt it. Begin your day rooted in calm, and you'll be more prepared to face whatever comes your way, not with haste, but with presence. Don't abandon the moment, calmly embrace it. Waking up signals the start of a new chapter, yet many of us meet it with urgency and unrest. Imagine if, instead, we could transform this daily act into a nourishing ritual, one that sets the rhythm for a grounded and effective day. The wise Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius once cautioned that haste is the companion of failure. His words echo across time, urging us to begin each day not with panic, but with poise and deliberate intention. Rather than springing out of bed like someone escaping a threat, consider adopting a gentler, more mindful routine. Think of waking as the slow unveiling of dawn, peaceful, promising, and full of possibility. As your eyes flutter open, take a few seconds just to be still. Breathe deeply, allowing the air to awaken your lungs and fuel your body. Stretch slowly, like a cat easing into movement, activating each muscle with care and awareness. As your body slowly comes alive, begin to align your thoughts with the day ahead. Picture your responsibilities not as burdens, but as meaningful opportunities for creation and fulfillment. This is the perfect moment to set clear intentions and reconnect with your deeper purpose. Marcus Aurelius also reminds us to focus on each task only as long as it requires. Apply this principle to your morning. Avoid distractions and stay anchored in what truly matters. Feed your body, your mind, and your soul so that you're well equipped for both the challenges and the joys that await. Taking this mindful approach to awakening lays a strong foundation, like planting a seed of calm that will bloom into clarity and productivity. Imagine gliding through your day like a boat in still waters, not struggling against the current. This single change, waking up with presence, can leave you more grounded, less anxious, and far more prepared to face life with grace. Remember, every morning is another chance to slow your pace and realign with your values. By investing just a few minutes into a calm and deliberate beginning, you're not only enriching your morning routine, but enhancing the quality of your entire day and, ultimately, your life. Let's not forget the fuel we need to start our engines. A day that begins with nourishment is a day primed for resilience. Breakfast, often neglected amid our hectic schedules, is crucial. Much like a vehicle cannot run without fuel, our bodies and minds cannot function optimally without proper morning sustenance. Marcus Aurelius emphasized that our present choices shape our future. Starting the day with nourishment is not merely about satisfying hunger, it's about laying the groundwork for the hours ahead. When we skip breakfast, we're more likely to feel irritable, scattered, and sluggish. And yet, it doesn't require a lavish spread. Something as simple as a bowl of oatmeal, a smoothie, or eggs and toast can drastically influence the tone of our day. Epictetus wisely told us to listen more and speak less. Let us apply that to our bodies. Tune in and respond to what it needs. Don't underestimate the impact of a wholesome breakfast. This modest habit holds the power to reshape your daily rhythm, transforming rushed mornings into moments of renewal and readiness. Taking time to eat well in the morning is an investment in energy and motivation. So when your alarm rings tomorrow, resist the urge to hurry. Instead, take a few mindful minutes to nourish your body. You'll be amazed at how this simple act can elevate your entire day. After all, breakfast isn't just a meal, it's the first conscious step toward a remarkable day. Drifting through the day without direction leaves us vulnerable to uncertainty. Marcus Aurelius urged us not just to reflect on virtue, but to embody it in our daily lives. This principle applies beautifully to our morning routine. Imagine waking without a clear agenda, adrift in a sea of endless options with nothing to anchor your time. It becomes easy to be swept up in distractions, only to end the day wondering where the time went and why you feel so unfulfilled. But now imagine the alternative. You rise with intention and become the architect of your day. Spend a few minutes in the morning sketching out a plan. List your most crucial tasks and decide what matters most. This small act creates momentum and helps you move through the day with clarity and purpose. You'll find yourself less distracted, more driven. Epictetus reminds us that true wealth lies not in abundance, but in simplifying our desires. Planning your day lets you focus energy on what truly counts, avoiding the drain of trivialities. Visualize starting your morning with a clear route. It's a subtle shift that can drastically enhance not only productivity, but your sense of purpose and fulfillment. So before diving into your to-do list tomorrow, pause. Take a breath. Map your direction. You'll be surprised at how this minor ritual can shift your entire day into one of meaningful progress. Our waking thoughts can often feel like a downpour of worry and doubt, but we have the power to shift that internal climate. Marcus Aurelius taught that our minds are shaped by the impressions we allow. Like a blacksmith's hammer that molds the metal, our thoughts forge our experience. While we may not control every event, we can absolutely control our response. Envision waking up, and instead of sinking into a mental fog of stress, you choose to see the day as a blank canvas waiting for vibrant colors. Epictetus said, "It's not events themselves that disturb us, but our interpretation of them." This insight alone can transform obstacles into moments of learning and evolution. The moment you catch your thoughts turning sour, pause. Ask yourself, does this thought serve me? Is there a more constructive way to see this situation? This practice of self-awareness is like sowing seeds of emotional strength. Our thoughts, after all, guide our emotions, which then shape our actions. Cultivating a positive mindset early in the day is like aligning a compass before a journey. It sets the direction. Picture your mind as a sailboat adjusting its sails to catch the best winds. Even on turbulent seas, you can stay on course. Strengthening this habit of noticing, questioning, and redirecting negative thoughts is like building emotional muscles. With time, you become more resilient, able to face stress and adversity with calm resolve. So the next time your morning begins with a wave of negativity, remember the teachings of the Stoics. Pause, observe, choose again. Let the sunlight in. You'll be amazed at how this one small shift can brighten not only your morning, but your entire life. At dawn, there lies a precious opportunity to mold the shape of your day. Often, in our eagerness to dive into tasks and obligations, we overlook this sacred window for self-reflection. Yet this moment of stillness can be a powerful anchor, setting the emotional tone for everything that follows. Imagine waking, and instead of rushing, you take just a few minutes to check in with yourself. This quiet pause holds the capacity to change your entire outlook and equip your spirit to meet the day ahead. Marcus Aurelius, in his enduring wisdom, advised beginning each morning with a mental exercise, reminding yourself that the day will bring challenges, rudeness, selfishness, ungratefulness. This isn't pessimism, it's preparation. It's about building resilience, so you're not caught off guard. Without this pause for contemplation, we risk becoming lost in a sea of obligations, tossed by waves of distraction and expectation. Morning reflection becomes your internal compass, guiding your thoughts, decisions, and actions throughout the day. It's like consulting a map before a long journey, clarifying your destination and the route that will get you there. This doesn't need to be complex. It can be as simple as sitting quietly with your breath, acknowledging what lies ahead, and reminding yourself of your deeper values. This small act of mental tuning can be the most powerful part of your morning, transforming chaos into clarity and routine into meaning. It can be as simple as sitting quietly for a few minutes, jotting your thoughts down in a journal, or engaging in a brief meditation. What truly matters is taking a moment to carve out mental space that allows you to clarify your intentions and priorities. By committing to this habit, you lay a strong foundation for your day. You'll find yourself more centered, less reactive to whatever the world throws at you, and more in tune with your deeper purpose. Picture the contrast between launching into your day already entangled in chaos versus beginning with calm, clarity, and intention. This seemingly minor morning ritual could very well serve as the spark for a profound transformation in your daily experience, boosting both productivity and inner peace. So next time the day begins, greet the dawn with mindfulness before rushing into your routine. Pause, take a deep breath, reflect on what matters most, and mentally equip yourself for the road ahead. Remember what Marcus Aurelius advised. Begin each day by reminding yourself, today I will encounter interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness. This isn't about fostering negativity, but about preparing the mind to meet whatever challenges arise with composure and wisdom. Equally important is not overlooking the needs of your physical body, particularly in the morning. As we rise, our body pleads for attention. Epictetus wisely reminded us that we must define our essence before we act, a lesson that applies just as much to morning physical neglect. Ignoring the body's signals upon waking can lead to stiffness, fatigue, and a lack of energy. Our body, like a finely tuned machine, requires daily maintenance. A brief stretching routine or light physical activity in the morning can be the catalyst that unlocks our energy for the entire day. Marcus Aurelius likened life to a form of struggle, a challenge we must be physically prepared to meet. Morning movement is more than just physical. It triggers chemical processes, enhancing blood circulation and releasing endorphins, the natural messengers of happiness and vitality. By dedicating just a few minutes to this self-care ritual, it's as if you flip a switch that activates your entire being. Visualize yourself caring for your well-being. Every stretch, every movement is an act of growth. This modest habit can become the cornerstone of a transformation that improves both your physical and mental health, smoothing the transition into your day and energizing your every step. The next time the sun rises, before plunging into your to-do list, pause and honor your body. Stretch, move, and observe how this ritual becomes a wellspring of revitalizing energy. Your body is your most faithful companion on this life journey. Treat it with the dignity and care it deserves, and it will respond with strength and resilience to meet whatever the day may bring. Another often overlooked aspect of a meaningful morning is nurturing your relationships. In the pursuit of a meaningful life, Stoic philosophy holds relationships in high regard. Seneca, one of its greatest voices, highlighted the irreplaceable value of friendship and love as pillars of a fulfilling existence. Amid the noise and busyness of daily life, it's all too easy to sideline the connections that matter most in favor of tasks and obligations. Yet, taking a few moments each morning to nurture these emotional ties can greatly enrich not just your own well-being, but also the lives of those you care about. A heartfelt good morning, a genuine hug, or a short, thoughtful conversation can reinforce the bonds that remind us we are not alone in this world. Marcus Aurelius urged us to accept and cherish the people that fate has placed in our lives. With an attitude of love and acceptance, our daily interactions can transform into profound sources of strength and encouragement. Beginning the day with a dose of positive human connection instills a sense of belonging and joy, which enhances our resilience in the face of life's inevitable challenges. These moments help us stay grounded in what truly matters. By fostering gratitude and affection in our relationships, we build a solid support network, one that uplifts us during hardships and celebrates with us in times of joy. This practice doesn't just enrich our personal lives, it sets off a ripple of positivity that can touch everyone around us. So, as the day begins, before the busyness sweeps you away, make time to connect with someone special. Whether it's through a warm message, a quick phone call, or sharing a morning meal, these small gestures can transform your morning and infuse your life with deeper meaning. Relationships are life's true treasure. Never underestimate the power of a simple act of kindness. It could be the ray of light that brightens not only your day, but also that of many others. Breathing, something so basic yet so often taken for granted, is another powerful tool for transformation that is often overlooked. Conscious breathing, when practiced intentionally, can reset your entire day. Picture yourself beginning each morning with a clear mind and a calm body, fully ready to meet whatever comes. This is the gift that mindful breathing can offer. Stoic thinkers like Epictetus stress the importance of being anchored in the present moment, and breathing is the most immediate path to that awareness. It serves as our natural anchor, gently pulling us away from regrets of the past or worries about the future. Imagine your breath as a quiet rhythm between your inner self and the outer world. Every inhale brings in new energy, every exhale lets go of what no longer serves. It's a simple act, yet deeply transformative. When you rise in the morning, resist the urge to plunge straight into the chaos. Instead, take a few moments for yourself. Feel the air as it enters your nostrils, expands your lungs, and fills your belly. Hold it for a moment, savor it, then let it go slowly, releasing tension as you do. This simple process has remarkable effects. It soothes the nervous system, lowers stress levels, and sharpens your focus. But conscious breathing isn't just a physical activity, it's a discipline. By focusing on the breath, you're learning how to direct your attention, a precious ability in today's distraction-heavy world. Recall the words of Epictetus. It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. Reapproach breathing with fresh curiosity. You may be amazed at the clarity and peace it brings. No special tools or long hours are needed. Just a few quiet moments can lay the groundwork for a day rooted in calm and purpose. So, when the alarm sounds next, resist the pull of routine. Instead, pause, breathe. Let each inhale be a reminder that you're alive, present, and prepared to greet the day. This gentle shift may well be the beginning of a richer, more balanced existence. And finally, never lose sight of nature. Its quiet majesty offers wisdom and healing that we too often neglect in our modern routines. Surrounded by screens, artificial light, and endless noise, we drift further from the natural world and, in doing so, from our own essence. Yet, reawakening our connection with nature can be a deeply transformative experience. Imagine beginning your day not to the jarring ring of an alarm, but to the soft rustle of leaves, the flow of a stream, or the melodic chorus of birds. Marcus Aurelius, in his enduring insight, encouraged us to pause and behold the beauty of sunrises and sunsets, to admire the calmness of water. Science supports what ancient wisdom has long held. Spending time in nature can ease our anxious minds, elevate our mood, and sharpen our focus. It's as if returning to the natural world allows us to recalibrate our own internal rhythm. The beauty of it is that we don't need grand adventures to reap these benefits. Small, intentional acts, like opening a window to feel the morning air, stepping outside to hear the birds, or watching the sky change color at dawn, can be more than enough. Sometimes the most ordinary gestures are the most powerful, like opening your window in the morning to breathe in the crisp air, or taking a short walk while noticing the soft hues of the sky and the gentle sway of leaves dancing in the wind. These simple moments can be enough to root you firmly in the present. Nature offers us timeless wisdom about movement, impermanence, and beauty. Each blooming flower and drifting cloud reminds us how precious the present moment truly is. So, before you throw yourself into the busyness of the day, pause. Give yourself the gift of stillness and connection with the natural world. Observe, breathe, feel. Let the calm and quiet strength of nature flow into you, anchoring you with a sense of inner stability to face whatever the day may bring. This small yet deeply powerful ritual has the capacity to transform not just your mornings, but your entire outlook on life. Nature waits, always patient, always welcoming, ready to hold you in its nurturing arms. All it asks is that you say yes to its invitation to rediscover the peace and beauty that exist not only around you, but also within you. Do not lose sight of your true essence. Revisit your values and realign with your goals so you can live each day with authenticity and meaning. At the start of your day, take a few quiet moments to visualize intentionally. This practice, inspired by the insights of the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, can serve as the catalyst for unlocking your fullest potential. Begin by mentally sketching out your day. Picture your responsibilities and challenges and imagine yourself skillfully navigating them. Envision handling work demands with calm clarity, gracefully managing the unexpected and interacting with others, whether in meetings or casual exchanges, with warmth and wisdom. See yourself triumphing over setbacks, approaching problems creatively, and finding balance in moments of tension. This is not wishful thinking. This is mental training. Just as elite athletes rehearse their performance in their minds before the competition, you too can prepare your brain for the day's trials. Each positive image you hold builds confidence and emotional strength. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that while we cannot predict the future, we can meet it with peace if our mind is prepared. Think of yourself as an architect designing the blueprint for your ideal day. Every detail you envision is a step closer to a more purposeful, structured life. This morning ritual becomes your compass, guiding your choices and behavior toward your deeper aspirations. It's like activating a mental GPS, setting your destination and allowing your subconscious to map out the best path forward. By engaging in visualization and immersing yourself fully in your morning rhythm, you're scripting your day in advance. Each imagined scene becomes emotional armor, helping you walk into reality with composure and clarity. The mind is like a garden. It flourishes with what you nurture. When you plant seeds of positivity and empowering images first thing in the morning, you lay the groundwork for a day rich in meaning and success. So, before the whirlwind of your daily routine begins, take a pause, breathe slowly, close your eyes, and see your best day unfold in your mind's eye. This seemingly small act can shift your entire perspective, strengthening your confidence and resilience so that you can take on any challenge that crosses your path. Do not drift away from gratitude. When you wake up, imagine yourself as a tender of the soul, planting the seeds of appreciation deep within your heart. This practice, deeply rooted in the teachings of Stoicism, has the potential to completely shift the way you see your life and elevate your experience in the most unexpected ways. Seneca, one of Stoicism's great voices, likened gratitude to a hidden treasure that waits to be found each morning. As you open your eyes to a new day, let yourself sink into a state of grateful awareness. Grateful for the people who enrich your life, the simple pleasures that surround you, and the opportunities that continue to present themselves. Gratitude becomes your lighthouse, steering your thoughts away from the jagged cliffs of negativity and guiding them toward the calm shores of joy and appreciation. The benefits of this practice extend well beyond emotional well-being. Gratitude touches the very fabric of your physical and mental health, acting as an unseen shield against stress and enhancing your natural resilience. Visualize yourself stepping into the day wrapped in a glowing aura of contentment, radiating tranquility in every interaction. Gratitude becomes a magical lens, revealing beauty in the smallest details. And when life becomes difficult, this habit of thankfulness serves as your anchor, keeping you steady during the storms. Marcus Aurelius viewed every morning as a sacred gift, an opportunity to breathe, to think, to feel, and to love. When you infuse your morning with Stoic principles, you begin crafting a stronger, wiser version of yourself with each new dawn. Let every sunrise be a fresh chance to plant gratitude, gather purpose, and water the deep inner strength that fuels your journey to make the world a better place. The way you begin your day can be the spark that ignites a profound shift in your entire life. So, I invite you to step into this new day with intention and curiosity. Embrace the teachings of Stoicism, apply them to your daily life, and witness the quiet yet powerful transformations that begin to unfold. The ancient wisdom of the Stoics remains profoundly relevant today and may hold the key to living a more centered, fulfilling life in the modern world. Don't let yourself feel rushed or overwhelmed by all these insights. Remember, this video will always be here for you, ready to offer guidance whenever you need to return to it. The path of Stoicism is not a race. It is a gentle, continuous unfolding. Start slowly. Choose one lesson to begin with. Consistency and reflection matter more than speed. In the comments, share which lesson you feel drawn to begin practicing. If you found value in this content, give it a like and consider subscribing to our channel. And if you've made it this far into the video, let us know by commenting the words Stoic Wisdom. I read each and every message and truly appreciate your presence and commitment. Don't forget to explore the 2 videos appearing on your screen now. They will beautifully complement today's teachings and deepen your understanding. Until next time.